Now, sometimes back last year, actually around October, the deputy president was responding to Oburu Odinga, the brother of Raila Odinga, and he said that even if they choose Oburu Odinga to be the IEBC chairman, for him he has no problem. For him, he has the people and he has God. Oburu had claimed that the only problem that Raila had is that he didn't have the system, but he has been having voters. So while it seems not to be an issue sometime last year, things are turning out to be elephant. The reality is dawning on DB supporters that actually they need to checkmate this thing called system. And one of the two of the people who have become a thorn in the flesh of UDA is CS Fred Matiang'i and Francis Kipicho. Their remarks, they said recently that has sent jitters and shockwaves in the TT camp. And so I want us to discuss on this issue of deep state, of course, with soberness. Some people will come here just to abuse us. We're not agents of deep state. Neither are we the system. We are here just to discuss issues as they happen in our nation. Because even those who say that they don't care whether the system exists or not, at this particular time, they are thinking of checkmating the system. So I will share a few clips that gives us a background of what we want to discuss. So let her know what you think about. Remember, even as we discuss, we still we don't want to create any form of tension in this country. We just want to see that we focus on the right things. And 2022 will come and go. Yeah, and in any case, if there exists a system, it's not beginning now. It has been there since the advent of Kenyan history. So if it has never been an issue in any other elections, it should not be an issue in this election. I don't know what you think. Let me share a few clips that gives us a background of what different people think about deep state. Okay, kuna mtu anaitwa let's begin with the deputy himself.
Kama ningekuwa mtu muoga, hatungeunda hii serikali ya Jubilee. Kama Uhuru Kenyatta angekuwa mtu muoga, hatungeunda hii serikali ya Jubilee, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunatishiwa mambo mingi. Choices have consequences. Nyinyi hamufai kwa sababu mko na kesi ya kule na ni kesi ya uongo. Ni vile tu tunaambiwa hata saa hii. Tunatishiwa ati iko system, ati iko deep state, ati iko watu watatuibia kura. Hata mkipiga kura namna gani, kuna watu wameketi mahali fulani wataamua. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa watu tunawangojea. Hiyo deep state tunangojea. Na hiyo system tunangojea. watakuja na system, sisi tutakuja na wananchi na Mungu, na tutaona vile hii kazi itaendelea.
It would be interesting for you to enlighten us a little bit, because the rest of us... It's a no-go zone. So. Let me just try. The rest of us Kenyans think that you just wake up and go vote, and it will be 50% plus one vote, and then IBC will say so-and-so has won. I mean, what sort of influence, how does it work?
Well, it works. You know, all I can say is that it works. So beyond that, of course, it works. I mean, the voters vote. So Deepstate also includes people in the villages. I mean, it goes up to the polling station. So it doesn't mean rigging. It doesn't necessarily mean rigging. No, I mean, influence doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rig elections. But I think we're intelligent people. We know. Citizens also very keen to see that popular candidates win elections. And if these people are going to, if the preferred candidate is going to continue to ensure continuity, either regime continuity or ideological continuity or material, continuity, or the status quo, whatever is preferred, that is likely to happen. That's why it's very important to have accountable systems, like a very credible IBC, very credible, voting system, the voting registers. That would minimize negative influence on elections. But a popular candidate backed by the state, I think it would be foolhardy to assume that you can be able to defeat that candidate.
That's pretty interesting. I think, Governor, I need to look for you outside this studio for more conversations. But
kwamba wanataka kufanya mambo ya IEBC na wanataka kuchagua commissioners wapya wa IEBC. Mimi nataka niseme hivi, sisi hatuna shida na IEBC. Wachaguliwe wale wanachaguliwa kwa IEBC. Sisi tunajua kura inaamuliwa na wananchi pale kwa polling station. Kwa hivyo chairman anaweza kuwa mtu yoyote, commissioner anaweza kuwa mtu yoyote, na sisi tuko tayari. And we have confidence in the institutions of our nation. Kwa hivyo watu wasikuwe na wasiwasi. Nasikia wengine wanasema ati Ruto amechengwa kwa hiyo mambo ya IEBC. Mimi nataka niwaambie hivi, hata wakitaka waweke Oburu Odinga awe chairman wa IEBC, mimi sina shida, mimi sina problem, kwa sababu mimi najua hawawezi kuamua, wananchi ndio wataamua. Ama mnasemaje? Tuko pamoja? Ile tu mimi nawauliza wale tutashindana na wao, waweke yule chairman wanataka, waweke commissioner wanataka, lakini tu watupatie assurance moja ya kwamba wananchi wakipiga kura na wameamua, wakubali matokeo ya uchaguzi. Wasituletee fujo, wasituletee kisirani. Mimi nawauliza watu wa Embu, si nyinyi ndio mtaamua? Ni commissioner ataamua? Ni IBC itaamua? Si ni nyinyi? Kwa hivyo we are ready. You can put whatever commissioners you want. Sawa? Tumekubaliana? Hapa na viongozi wengi na naona inataka karibu.
You have no business calling Fred Matiang'i and Muchero to a meeting when it is in public domain that they have already taken sides. They are not independent to plan elections with them. So we want to ask Wafula Chebukati to do a letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta and outline clearly the mandate of the IBC as an independent institution and why the IBC cannot work with ministers who have clearly taken sides and become campaigners and youth wingers of Raila Odinga. And he must tell the president to move those people from those dockets if he must keep them in the cabinet for the purposes of the election. And you have seen the way Matiang'i has misused the police force. Hii mambo ya Keno vijana wetu wawili waliuawa. Kuna mtu ameshikwa mpaka wa leo? Pale na Rumoro watu walionekana kwa video wamepiga magari, hakuna mtu ameshikwa. Because huyu Matiang'i is partisan. Alikuwa amendanganywa atakuwa rais wa Kenya. Na akaamini. Ilikuwa ni uongo. Sasa amekwama. Sasa anataka atikusukuma hii mtu ya kitendawili ati akuwe rais. And then anasimamia police, anawekwa kwa kamati ya kupanga uchaguzi. Hiyo uchaguzi inaweza kuwa mzuri. Chebukati must tell the president that the people of Kenya cannot be comfortable and they cannot accept an election that is being managed by people who are clearly partisan.
So if you're talking about the deep state, who is there? Is the president and his deputy. So I go and ask Mr. Deputy President, which deep state are you talking about?
Lakini naibu rais William Ruto ana mtazamo tofauti. Eti amekuwa akitishwa hapa na pale.
Tunatishiwa ati iko system, ati iko deep state, ati iko watu watatuibia kura. Hata mkipiga kura namna gani, kuna watu wameketi mahali fulani wataamua. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa watu tunawangojea.
Kakake Tinga, yani Daktari Oburu Odinga, anasema system ni muhimu kama parachichi au avocado kwa githeri.
Something which we were missing, and that's something which we are missing is called system. Some people are saying system is not important, but system is very important.
Naam, siku hizi za corona, Waziri Kagwe alisema,
if we continue
na tutakuwa accountable kwa hawa wananchi na kwa Mungu kama tutawalet down.
Yule ambaye anataka kufanya kampeni zake ako na uhuru kufanya kampeni zake. Yule ambaye anataka kufanya mambo yake ako na uhuru kufanya mambo yake. Lakini nawaambia tafadhali, wakuu wa usalama, tusitishwe and don't be intimidated at all na porojo hii ya huko na huko. Porojo tu, watu wanaendelea huko. Porojo hii tumezoea, hii inaletwa wakati wa uchaguzi. Kila mtu wako na uhuru kufanya kampeni. Kazi yetu sisi ni kuweka usalama.
Okay, wazee, mmesikia mambo ya deep state, different positions, different perspective of people and leaders on issues of deep state. Sometime last year it was not an issue for DP supporters, but right now it has become a real issue. So what do you think? You're welcome to give your opinion. We have already Jack Ndube. How are you?
Jack Ndube, mimi si jambo bwana.
Jack Ndubei, hiyo ni jina gani? Inamaanisha nini?
Jack Ndubei, kwa nini Jack Ndubei? Mtu wa Kindubei?
Jack Ndubei. Hey, ni jina
Mtu wa
ngumu.
Kindubei. Yeah?
Karibu James, how are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, Jack Ndubei.
Yes.
Oh, now I get it. I was reading the whole of it. I did not. It was not making sense. Now I can get it. Jack Ndubei.
Yeah, Jack Ndubei.
Haya, karibu tuambie Deepstate, wewe unasikiaje hii siasa ya Deepstate? Mara inyorosha, mara they should not create fears. Unasikiaje hii siasa ya Deepstate?
Unajua hiyo siasa ya Deepstate hiyo wanasema, ambapo sasa wanasahau kwamba hata wao walikuwa wakati mmoja Deepstate. Manake ukiangalia kwenye uchaguzi ambazo zimepita, vitu fulani zilifanyika ambazo hawawezi kuelezea mpaka leo. Hawawezi kuelezea kwa nini sava haikufunguliwa. Hawawezi kuelezea kwa nini Musando aliuawa kabla ya uchaguzi. Hawezi kueleza. Na kuna mtu ameshtakiwa mpaka sasa. Sijui, mimi sijaelewa kama kuna mtu ameshtakiwa kwa yale mambo ambayo yalitokea. So wasiseme eti hawajui kwamba kuna Deepstate au kuna system. Mimi nafikiri kuna system, isipokuwa sielewi hiyo system huwa inafanyika na kina nani. Mimi hapo siwezi nasema ukweli, sielewi, lakini najua kwamba kama system iko haikupendi, itakuwa ni vigumu sana kwa mambo yako kufanyika vizuri. Kwa hiyo wasiseme eti kuna ati wanasema eti hakuna Deepstate. Nafikiri kuna system ambayo wakati fulani kama haikupendi unakuwa na shida katika mambo ambayo yanatakiwa kufanywa. Ndio maana hata unaona wakati mwingine chaguzi zingine zikifanywa, kama tuseme kwa United Nations, wakati mwingine watu wengi hawakuweko wakati, watu wengi labda hawakushuhudia hii wakati, lakini mimi nilishuhudia wakati mmoja. Kuna katibu mkuu wa United Nations ambaye alikuwa ametolewa Afrika ilitoa, alikuwa anaitwa Salim. Alikuwa mtu katibu mzuri sana. Alikuwa anatoka Tanzania, ni Mzanzibari, ni Mtanzania. System ilimkataa hata baada ya yeye kushinda kura zile zilikuwa zinatakikana. Amerika ilitumia kura ya turufu mara 3 kabisa, walimkataa kabisa. Kwa hiyo system ilimkataa. Baadaye wakasema Kwa hiyo kuna system, siwezi kusema hakuna. Kuna system. Kama system iko haipendi, hata kama wewe umehitimu au una kura za namna gani, nafikiri kuna shida hapo, na lazima tujue hiyo ni mimi sielewi hiyo system, lakini nakumbuka sielewi kama yetu ya Kenya inaongozwa na watu gani, lakini ile ya United Nations najua inaongozwa na Amerika Waingereza na Warasia. Kama hawapendi mtu fulani, hata kama ana qualification namna gani, huo mtu ashinde. Kwa hiyo mimi naweza kusema kwamba nimeona makamu wa rais anajivuna sana, anatapa sana juu ya hii uchaguzi. Lakini mimi kwa maoni yangu makamu wa rais hafai kugombania urais, kwa sababu ni serikali hiyo ambayo ipo, ni the same government. Sioni kwa nini wananchi wa Kenya wanataka kuwa na serikali hiyo moja kwa muda wa miaka 20. Hiyo ni kama kurudi nyuma, kwa sababu zile kazi zote walikuwa wanaweza kufanya wamefanya 10 years. Sasa tunatakikana kuwa na kiongozi mwingine tofauti na hiyo serikali ilikuwa. Hata kama wataendeleza zile sera za serikali, maana sera ambazo ziko kwa sasa ni sera za serikali. Kwa hiyo hata kama watakapo wakiendeleza hizo, lakini wawe ni watu tofauti, wasiwe wale watu. Hayo ndio maoni yangu kwa wakati huu.
Sasa nikuulize mwenzangu.
Niulize.
Do you believe in politics of system and deep state? Do they enhance democracy or they undermine democracy?
Unajua mambo ya democracy
ambazo... What is the role of deep state across the world? What is the role of, because I don't think it's only Kenya which has deep state. Even the United States has its own deep state. So what is the role of deep state in any democracy?
Unajua, nataka kukwambia hivi. Unajua democracy ni system ambayo mmejichagulia wenyewe. Hakuna democracy ambayo ni universal. Unajua hiyo?
Yeah, we are listening. Proceed.
Hakuna democracy ambayo ni universal. Democracy ni yale mambo ambayo mmejipangia ninyi wenyewe, ambayo inafanyika kwa haki zenu zile mmejichagulia. Unaona, hii ndio naweza kusema saa zingine watu wengi wanafanya makosa kusema kwamba demokrasia ni system ambayo inafuata labda system ya Amerika au inafuata system ya Uingereza. Sio hivyo hata kidogo. Mimi siamini, na hata ukiangalia kwa makini sio hivyo. Na hizi state hizo ambazo wanasema hizo power, hizo vitu ziko nafikiri ni za kuhakikisha kwamba nchi inabaki inaongozwa, lakini inaongozwa kwa njia ambayo isiongozwe kwa njia ambayo italeta vurugu kwa nchi. Lazima hata kuwe na mabadiliko, iwe mabadiliko ambayo inafuata mifumo na tabia ya hiyo na wale watu ambao wanaishi katika hizo nchi. Kwa hiyo hizo nani ziko kila mahali. Ni vile dunia ilivyo. Sidhani kama inavunja demokrasia vile tunavyosema, kwa sababu hata ukiangalia katika United Nations tunasema wao wengi wa Amerika wanasema tunatakiwa tufuate demokrasi, lakini ile demokrasia wanafuata tu ile ambayo inawafavor. Kama inawafavor, hiyo ni demokrasia. Saa zingine kama iwafevi, wanakataa hata na nguvu. Kwa hiyo hii mambo ya demokrasia lazima tuichunguze kwa makini, kwa maoni yangu. tusichukulie tu kiholela kwamba demokrasia, maanake ukiwacha tu kiholela demokrasia italeta hata fujo. Kwa sababu nataka nikuambie mfano mmoja. Kenya tunafanya uchaguzi. Tukishafanya uchaguzi inatakikana niseme kwa mfano, wacha nisianze na niseme kwa mfano Amerika ambao tuna watu wanapenda sana kusema juu yake, au Uingereza watu wanapenda sana kusema, Wakenya wanapenda kusema juu yake. Wanafanya uchaguzi. Wakishafanya uchaguzi, ile siasa ambayo wanafanya baada ya uchaguzi huwa ni siasa kwa parliament. Juzi katika nchi ya Tanzania, Magufuli aliwaambia wenzake kwamba jamani, mtushafanya uchaguzi, sasa siasa mnatakiwa mfanye kwa parliament. Watu walisema, hata Wakenya wengine walisema Magufuli ni dictator, anaua demokrasia. Demokrasia gani hiyo ambayo mbona hawa Waingereza wanafanya hivyo na sijaona wakifanya mkutano kila, yani wanafanya mikutano kila mahali kila siku. Vurugu, hiyo ni vurugu, sio demokrasia tena. Ukishafanya namna hiyo umevunja ile udemokrasia. Lakini utakuta labda hiyo ndio demokrasia ya Kenya. Wakenya wanapenda hivyo, tunapenda hiyo. Hata baada ya uchaguzi watu bado wanafanya mikutano, kila mahali. Badala ya watu kufanya kazi
unaweza weka kikomo hapo, tuende kwa mtu mwingine.
Yes.
Tutarudi kwako na kuna maswali pia nitakuuliza.
Asante.
Yeah, those are just opening remarks. Let's have James, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, what is I'm good, huh?
How have you been?
I have been fine, huh?
Okay.
Yes, at some point I took a break, but I'm back. Huh?
That's good. That's good.
Yes. But now we have had a different stand of people at different times in regard to this deep state.
Yes.
So what is your take? We have just given you a background of how
I
people
saw
have
it.
responded to the same issues.
I saw it. Now, some time back, the son of the former president, Mr. Mwai Kibaki, was interviewed by the Daily Nation. And one of the most telling statements that he made was that the sitting president normally gives a guide to the state apparatus on succession. And once the president points who he has in mind, the systems are put in place and you start being inducted into the government systems. Firstly, by being introduced to the army. That is in print. The copy is there for anybody who wants to revisit that interview. Basically, what it means is that the deep state exists. And it is painful, especially if you have been part of it, and you know it, and you know how it works, and then you go to the other side of it. Because you know you are up against the odds. Beating the system has never been easy. Of course, there are few in Africa who have managed to beat the systems and win elections, but very, very few. And that is why Kememia said if you are hovering around 45, 55% in terms of competition, and the preferred candidate is 45, and the popular candidate is 55, the one that the system wants will breach that gap of 10%. So if you want to win against the system, you must be over 70%, 70 to versus 30% of the other candidate. Otherwise, if you are coming to almost half, you can as well start preparing to go home. You can't win. So the system is there, and the system is deep, and the system includes invisible forces within the state and out of the state. Within the state, they can be bureaucrats, civil servants, senior civil servants. Outside the state could be businessmen who have great interest in who takes over and are willing to pay top dollar to see that the candidate they prefer gets through. So what you can see right now in Kenya, and it's very interesting, all these movements you are seeing around will soon come to an end. There is what we call backroom politics. Some people who have to be sat somewhere and asked, what do you want? And they will go practical. If you stand, how many votes can you garner? And the deal will be put on the table. That's why you heard the likes of Jimmy Wajigi saying some time back that the government was formed in their houses. So you can always imagine what goes on in the background. Because you see, politics is about winning. There is no number two in politics. If you come number two, you can as well go home. You have lost. And even if you have lost with 2 votes, you cannot say you won. There is no number two in politics. It's only number one. So the deep state plans its program very well. First of all, to shape the opinion of the people towards the desired objective that they have, and they have very strong forces. And what they don't have, they buy. So there is nothing that can stop them from getting the objective which they want to achieve. So anybody right now thinking that the deep state does not exist is being myopic. And of course, there is no politician who likes to say that he's going to lose. So that's why you are going to hear some saying we shall meet with our God and so on and so forth. It's that they understand the mighty of this system that they are up against, because the system is normally very unpredictable. It is sudden, and it has a very strong desire to achieve its objective. If you listen to Kimemia very well, the governor of Nyandarua, he also said that the foreign governments have a lot of interest in some countries like Kenya. They have a stake and they have the desired objective also. All these forces combine to deliver the desired results in the elections. So basically what it is that beating a system, you must be extremely popular. In fact, the popularity that is...
Let me ask you, before you proceed,
Yes.
Let me ask you, does it mean when international observers come and watch for an election and give their verdict and say that we believe that the elections was free and fair?
Yes.
Is it because it has gone the way they wanted, or is it because the election was free and fair? Based on that international interest?
The observations and the remarks that they make are subjective. They are not statements that you'd call objective. Why do I say so? I say so because every country that comes here has an interest in this country. They have businesses here, and they have prospects for more businesses. So the moment you don't serve that interest, you have no fallback position, even if whatever happens, happens. And they know that their word carries the weight. They will just say that they'll quote whatever the outcome is with the ones that the elections generally reflect the will of the people. That is a very wide statement. So they are not here for picnic. They are here to observe and see that their objectives are also achieved. And that is why let me first finish.
Okay.
That is why you also notice that when President Moi was retiring, we taken account of Sariko's gay. She told us that they traveled to America to see Bush because already the outcome of the presidential election was almost clear. And the system found that the candidate who was up against the system's candidate could not win. And therefore, they had to enter into a negotiation. The good thing is that the other candidate, who was not the system's candidate, was somebody they could accommodate, somebody they felt comfortable with. And therefore, there was no much fight in Kenya. Otherwise, the systems are very strong and they range from local to international. And these forces combine to give the outcome of what we see in general elections. Thank you.
Okay, let's have Angie. What is your take on deep state? What Kibicho, Kibemia, Matiang'i were saying, and what Oburu Odinga, Ruto, Ricardi were saying.
Thank you very much, Wekesa. Let me start by... Yes.
We are beginning with Angela first.
Sorry?
Yeah, Angela came first. Let go, and then I was saying Angie, not Andy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Acha tu
that's
aendelee niongee after yeye. Acha aongee alafu niongee after yeye.
No, kama give, then let's have Amos. I'm going in that order. Let's have Amos, and then we go to Auntie.
Okay.
Amos, you're on mute. Unmute first before you talk, Amos.
Yes, thank you very much, Wekesa. I hope you are getting me very clearly right now. Are you getting me?
Yeah, but there's some slight because I don't know what. Okay, the rest let's mute. Proceed.
Okay, my information was just like this way. Yeah? The deep state. I don't think the deep state is going to work, because it depends on the popularity of a politician. As we see now, the way, say, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the way he is popular in this country. Now, no one can steal his vote. If we follow the fairness and free election, no one will go to steal. When he's still, he will be cut. Now, what is going on here? If it was Deepstate was going to function, it could function in 202, right? And now, as you see, the Nini, I don't know to speak in English. Stupid.
It's not a must you speak English, hata Kiswahili tunasikia. He has a network problem, is dropped off though. Andy, proceed. When he comes back, we'll give him chance.
Thank you very much, Akesa. Let me start by clarifying that this issue of deep state and system, I think me being a Democrat, I don't believe in this kind of issues like system, deep state. And I think we are really discouraging democracy in our country. Deep state and system cannot be more powerful than millions of Kenyans who should be given chances to elect leaders of their choices. 2 or 3 individuals cannot be more powerful that they can choose leaders for millions of Kenya instead of giving Kenyans opportunities. Wekesa, this is like saying bodies like IEBC, they have no any work to do in Kenya, and we are really demeaning their name. Kenya is a democratic country, and this issue of every time talking about this state and system, I think this time round it has no room for Kenyan democracy. And it's high time for Kenyans to believe that they have right to elect leaders of their choice and not the system and deep state. You cannot tell me that a person can come to the limelight and say that they made government in their houses. This is disrespecting Kenyan democracy. And I think Wekesa 2022 will be the right time to show the world that Kenya is a democratic country, and we will have a very free and fair election. Kenyans are more powerful than any individual or any politician or any deep state or system. And I think this is the right time to start promoting democracy in Kenya. Is the right time to say no to deep state and systems, because we
okay. Maybe before you conclude, because I see you are already almost concluding when you say this. Let me try to jog your mind before you go to the conclusive part of it. Maybe someone can come up and say that Kenya is an agricultural country, but when you look at it, maybe Kenya is still suffering from food insecurity. So then the question comes in, what are the factors affecting food production in Kenya? So we can talk about democracy, but what are the factors affecting democracy? Let's say like this, people quickly jump to a conclusion that when you talk about deep state, it is synonymous with the rigging election. It may not be actually rigging, but it may undermine the process of maybe, like for example, let me say assuming right now we want people to register for vote. And instead of the government enhancing people to register for votes, you see IEBC is complaining there is no money for that. So in other words, deep state can facilitate a process or affect a process in many ways, and not necessarily like you have to vote and they tamper with your vote. And so when you say that people are powerful and overcome the deep state, my question then is, how comes the same people are not even angry enough? They are not even queuing up to register as voters to show that actually they are yearning for change. They are yearning. In fact, the majority of the young people, I see some areas even they are giving people food for them to go and register and vote. So do you think, and that's where the issues of this called the government systems come in place and take advantage? You have heard even of the sometimes because of voter apathy, unakuta like areas munasema maybe the government intimidated people not to vote, but actually it's people themselves who didn't show up to vote. So are you seeing deep state in, there are many ways in which the system can operate and maybe affect the election without necessarily going and tampering with your election result? Okay, maybe respond to that, and then someone else had a question or a comment.
I heard him say, I agree with you, Ekesa. The issue here is there are those who think that when deep state is mentioned, it's about 40 staffing and that manner of thing. No, it is the system of next year's elections has started being set. Right now, one party has been going around saying how many youths who are going to vote for them simply because they are young. But you can see what has happened in voter registration. They can no longer boast. How do you know whether this is an induced system to a level? There's something called voter suppression, and it is not done through coercion. Even the manner of voter registration you can see with the youth is what will reflect when we go to the next elections. Many youths will not turn up and vote. So these talk about this or that about the system, it is a very, very, very well organized, choreographed system that delivers the desired objective. And in 2002, I heard my brother say that it would have happened that time. That time already it was clear that the man would win, and therefore the ones who had to lose power had to acquit themselves very fast. And actually there was a lot of backroom negotiations to prepare for that handover. So these things don't just happen. In fact, there is no one in Africa who has ever handed power to a hostile candidate. Just look at here in DRC. The person who was very popular was circumvented the last minute by the combining of two powers, Tshisekedi and the former president. He went back to the foreign capitals with his tail between his legs. Thank you.
Jack Entube, you wanted to say what before he responds to all of them now? And let him say, then you respond to all of them. Jack Entube.
Naweza kusema hivi, huyo jamaa anasema kwamba Kenya ni democracy. Anasahau kwamba vile anasema ni democracy, mbona sava haijafunguliwa mpaka leo? Okay? Yale makosa ambayo yamefanyika, mbona yamefanyika na hizo vitu hazijafanyika? Hiyo sava haijafunguliwa. Na nataka kumwambia hivi, lazima ujue hii mambo ambayo unasema democracy in America, sehemu ambazo zile wako wengi ambao ni Republican, saa hizi wanaweka sheria, wanaweka system fulani za kusuppress zile voters za weusi, na yet tunajaribu sana kusema America ni democracy. Nataka tuelewe kwamba demokrasia ni ile mipango ambayo tunajiwekea sisi. Tunaweza kudecide hata kusema tu tunakaa kwa boardroom tunachagua mtu, hiyo bado ni demokrasi. Msifikirie eti demokrasi ni lazima tu watu wachaguane wafanye fujo ya kukampeni. Sio hivyo. Demokrasia inafuatana na vile wananchi, nchi nzima imesikilizana tutafanya nini. Lakini kusema ati Kenya ni demokrasi full kwamba inafuata mambo ya hiyo tafadhali, sio hivyo hata kidogo. Asante sana.
Some people argue that that electoral college in America is like deep state. The general vote doesn't count. It has to be electoral college. What do you think?
Electoral college imewekwa imewekwa kufanya check and balance ya kusema kwamba zile states kubwa zisifanye njama za kuweza kuproduce president mara kwa mara. Hiyo inatakikana. Hata sisi Kenya tunatakiwa tuweke mipango ya kufanya kwamba tukisema tu watu tuchaguane bila kuweka check and balance, unaweza kukuta kwamba zile makabila ambazo ni kubwa zinaweza kusikilizana, labda makabila mbili au tatu zinachaguana president, zinatoka tu kwa katika hizo makabila. Na mkisema ati ni demokrasi tunachaguana, sio hivyo. Lazima hizi vitu tuweke check and balance ndio kuwe na ndio.
Thank you. Let now Auntie finish his submission. We go to next person. Thank you.
Let me say this, Wekesa. I have heard some of you saying on reading elections. I've heard others saying that deep state is not all about I want to say this first. Deep state they only have one common goal: to put a leader that will promote their interest. They have one. They have political interest. These are big people who are mafias who try to. They don't give Kenyans. They don't give Kenyans. They don't want. They don't. Hello.
You are correct.
Can I, Wekesa? Let me tell the boy something. Can I talk?
Just give him a little minute. He finishes. Are you actually next? So allow him to finish.
They only have one goal: to choose a leader, so that because of their interest, sometimes they lack to give Kenyans chance to elect leaders of their choice. They don't have the interest of the people in their heart. They only have their own interest kwa mioyo zao. Let me say this. Our deep state hawa ndio wana promoting wizi wa kura. Our deep state hawa ndio wanaletanga chaos, kwa sababu wacha nikisema hivi, Wekesa, like right now we have two political giants, that is William Samoei Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga. the deep state may choose Raila Odinga as their preferred candidate. Kenyans may choose William Samoei Ruto as their preferred candidate, and vice versa. Let me say this. We go to a free and fair election in 2022. We elect leaders, and we know where the majority of votes will go. And baadaye tunakuta like deep state wamechagua their preferred candidate instead of respecting the will of the people. This is what will bring chaos. This is what will bring violence. Na hii ndio italeta utengamano kwa watu. Na wacha niseme hivi, Wakenya ni wakati mwafaka kwa Wakenya kujua kwanza kwamba demokrasia ndio italeta maendeleo kwa hii nchi. Watu kutuchagulia kukubali ati kuna deep state na system, na kukubali wako na nguvu kutuliko sisi ambao wananchi ambao sisi tunapiga kura, hakuna siku demokrasia yetu itaonekana. That's why I'm saying, nikisikia huyu Mswahili akisema ati demokrasia, hakuna kitu kama demokrasia Kenya. Kama hakuna demokrasia Kenya, ni wakati mwafaka wa kuonesha kwanza kwamba demokrasia inaweza chukua mkondo katika siasa zetu za Kenya. Hivyo ndio naweza sema, Wekesa.
Okay, thank you. Let's have Ben Oseno. Then, Auntie, are you back?
Wekesa.
Yes, I'm back.
Before I contribute on my part, I wanted to tell Andy this. If you are really a real Kenya and you've been there from 2002 up to now, don't be living in your own world. These things are there and they have been happening. And don't pretend that it is 2000 in 2022 ndio hizi vitu haitafanyika. Let me tell you one thing. In Kenya here, we have two types of people. Iko wananchi na iko weneinchi. The people who own the country. They don't care whether you are surviving or you are not surviving.
That is what we must.
I'm just telling you a fact. I'm just telling you a fact. There are people in Kenya who own the country. When I talk of owning the country,
we have a mandate of changing Kenya.
You don't have any mandate because you don't have anything. You only have the mouth to talk. These are people who they call the swords. They can say you are going to be killed today and you will be killed and you will do nothing. You see? So these people are there, my friend, and they are very dangerous. You see, they are everything. Hii maneno ya kupiga kura, enda upige kura kwa MCA, ikuwe Democratic, MP, even if they decide to do it in a governor of a certain area, they will succeed. So your precedence is their right. It's not our right. That one, me, I used not to think about it. I could not even believe it. I saw it in 2007, 2013, and 2017. So that is when I realized, kumbe this thing, there is another place where this thing is not. Sisi as the wananchi, we cannot decide this thing. Hii kitu iko na wenyewe, my friend, na hata ukipiga kura 100%, they will decide otherwise. and you will not do anything. You will make noise on the streets. They will kill some few hundred people. You go dry, you go home. They live like that. James, am I lying?
In
You are
2000, in
very correct.
2002, in
They don't care.
2002,
In fact, Andy.
let me say, listen to me. Listen to me, Oseno.
It
In
is my
2002,
time. You
there
are
was
eating.
Deepstate,
You guys, you are
and the
eating
will
my
of the
time.
people was
You
heard.
guys, you are eating my time. You guys, you are eating my time. You guys, you are
Okay,
We
but
eating
love
my
go
to be
on.
time.
patient. We love to be patient.
Let Angela speak, then you can take your time. I think
I want to answer Oseno. I want to answer Oseno before Angie speaks.
in
Oseno,
30
in
that
2002,
seconds, kindly 30
yes,
seconds.
yes. In 2002, we had Deepstate, but the will of the people was heard. Moi was supporting Uhuru Kenyatta, but Kenyans chose Mwai Kibaki, who had no support, any support from Deepstate. And that is what will happen in 2022. Democracy must come to reality. And this thing of believing that Deepstate
Andy,
can...
let me answer you that. Andy, let me answer you that. When Moi was supporting Uhuru Kenyatta and Kibaki won the presidential election, Moi was preparing Uhuru Kenyatta for after Mwai Kibaki. He was preparing him to be the next after Mwai Kibaki. He knew very well that Uhuru cannot win. Mwai Kibaki will win the election, and he is preparing him. And that is what has happened in Kenya. Is it right or wrong? He was being prepared for.
That's wrong.
And that's how things went on. It was just black-minding people. Let me stand with this, with the
What I have
Uhuru.
realized that the people who are supporting Deepstate and system are people who want are people who want that the
Anyway, people, you cannot use 2002 as the yardstick. Remember, there are many ways of looking at it from a deep state. When you look at America, the deep state was not for Trump. The deep state was for Biden. So it is not always automatic that the sitting president controls the system. So what happened 2002 actually, in fact, almost half of the people from the ruling, including the technocrats, most of them were moving away from the Kanu regime. And, it is the LTP wing which came to the NAC and gave them, to the NAC, NAK, that gave them the power. And so when they were moving away, somehow the deep state itself was divided. So Sasingine, just even in the army, sometimes the army can divide against itself. So 2002 may not be the best description of a deep state working. So let's, again, Kimemia explained very well that even a candidate to be backed to win, he must be commanding substantial lead. This guy was picked from home. He didn't have any political muscle. He was someone stepped down for him. He was nominated, given a government ministerial portfolio, then brought into limelight. So he didn't have the time to consolidate vote such that, it can only be you can only be given an advantage if you already control some voter masses. And that's why this is the challenge that is affecting OCA. Most of the principles of OCA, they don't have a background where they can follow. So nobody even can present any of the principles of OCA and say that this one can be our presidential candidate. So first of all, you also have to be a formidable candidate. It can only be a tipping scale where you are helped to cross the line but you are actually a strong force. So that's why the Uhuru 2002 may not be a serious case when we come about this issue to do with the deep state. So Angela, can you make your submission and we go to Benson?
So my submission is deep state are thorn in the flesh of DP supporters. Kitu kimoja chenye mimi nimeona Kenya hii kinatuumiza sana ni tunapanda mbegu, inamea, inakuwa, ikifika kuvuna inakuwa ni machungu. And that's what is eating some of our politicians in this Kenya of ours. Pain. But when it is someone who is in that shoe, you become happy, you cheer, you go on moving around cheering. And this gives me a question mark, a challenge that before you do something, lazima ukae chini ufikirie unafanya kitu cha kukufana ama unafanya kitu kitakacho kuja na ukijua utafanya kitu kikuletee madhara, afadhali ufanye hivyo na uende kabisa, usirudishe macho nyuma, uangalie nyuma uone kuna kitu tena nyuma unataka kuchukua. Because wakati Wekesa amesema ati deep state imefanya ati hii Kenya ni nchi ya ukulima, lakini unapata Kenya watu wako na njaa sana, watu wako na shida sana. Ni hii shida yote ni hao viongozi wanatuletea. Utapata Kenya afadhali wa import mahindi kutoka Uganda ikuje iuzwe Kenya, na mkulima wa Kenya na mahindi na haiwezi nunuliwa na kutuna viongozi. Kikiwaka moto, kila kiongozi anatuambia yeye ni mzuri atafanya, yeye ni mzuri atafanya, yeye ni mzuri atafanya. Lakini akiwa kwa hiyo akiwa hapo unatarajia akusaidie, ndo wanaleta madhara zaidi kushinda venye kuko. So, let's just accept what we have been doing and move on. Mtu aache kulia ati deep state itafanya, sijui fulani atafanya, fulani atanifanyia. Hapana. Kubali yaishe, usonge mbele. The best thing ni hiyo. Usipokubali, then nini itafanyika? Utabaki tu na depression na wewe ndo ulipanda. Unajua ukipanda mahindi unatarajia tu kuvuna mahindi. Huwezi panda mahindi na utarajia kuvuna maharagwe. Hiyo ni ngumu. And now it will give some of our politicians some lessons to learn. Na watajua next time watakuwa wanafanya hivi ndo wakuwe wanatafuta njia ya kutembea. Juu huwezi kuwa unaharibu na alafu rudi uangalie nyuma kwenye uliharibu. Ukiharibu ukiendanga. Kukiharibika kubali yaishe na usonge mbele. Kulaumiana kila wakati, watu wanaumia. There's no need. In Kenya we are very rich. We don't need any support, we don't need anything. But we have democracy, lakini hiyo democracy we have take it as an advantage of misusing Kenya cake. Wakipiga kura, hata tukisema ati kura zitaibiwa, whether zitaibiwa or hazitaibiwa, nani alianzisha kuiba kura? So we should not have to complain. Accept, move on. Tukubali yaishe. Ni hayo tu.
Play make one submission if you don't mind.
Who is talking?
It's me. I don't know.
Ronald.
Yes, Ronald.
You want to comment on Angela's submission?
Yeah, I mean, Angela, then I saw Ben's, then I saw Andy as well.
Okay, because we are going in that order. unless you have a question, I wanted Benson to finish his submission, then we come.
Okay, that's
to,
fine. No problem.
Yeah.
Yes, my submission on this topic is just very brief. Me, what I know, I used not to believe these things until there was deep state. I was just in denial, like these guys in order are now in denial. Yes, I used to be in denial, but in 2007, when the first night when the votes were being counted, my friend Raila was having 1.5 million votes. In fact, nikaenda kulala nikasema si hata hiyo amechukua. When I woke up at around 4:35, things were in a different trajectory. You could not even know hizi votes zimetoka wapi na zimeenda aje, you know. So then I said, hey, hapa there is a problem. 2013, the same story. 2017, the same story. This is when I decided there are some people who are even lucky or are not required. So hii kitu ya deep state inakuanga, you only don't know its existence if you have not been hit. Ngoja tu ukulwe ndio utajua kumbe hiyo kitu iko. Hiyo ndio my submission.
Thank you. Tukikuwa brief and short like that, everybody will submit at the right time. So let's have Mwango, are you around?
Maybe one word as Mwango prepares to
Okay,
sit
he's not
on.
around you. Okay.
Good.
Okay, let's have Ronald and then inawezekana. So.
Yeah, so I mean, very interesting conversations. Kuna one side that is accepting reality, one side that feels ni kama wanasema tumerusha mbao na randa, like you've given up on your role as a citizen and you've given up that role and you're giving it to somebody else to kind of think and act for you. I really supported I've supported Baba for long. I've started voting I've voted in a couple of elections myself. But as it stands sahi, nitasema, as in, especially now the side that the UDS side and the wheelbarrow, I say the wheelbarrow side na hii side ingine. I mean, I seem confused. Why? Because one side, especially side yenye Benson ana subscribe to, yenye anasema 2007 ni mambo ilienda vibaya, 2013, 2017 na sahi. To me, I will buy the agenda of saying, let's reform. I mean, of course, voting the same party, 2022, if Raila is going to be the flag bearer, wacha tumpe kura, not because on the basis of deep state. Because I mean, if you bring in deep state, then it will mess up so many people. It's a reality that we have this caliber of people who sits down somewhere to start manipulating people. But I think that only happens up to a certain extent. And the fact that especially Raila Saiyako na, I mean, he has a history of being a reformer, in my view. I'm not saying that because I support Raila, but on the other hand, we have this idea, wheelbarrow, this idea, the deputy president, and they're really like doing their thing. But ukiangalia, if you think about it from a commoner, from a village, from some village in wherever we come from, you start realizing that none of these people has the interest of the common mwananchi at heart. Most of these are just doing it for PR, and I will say it for a fact that the UDS side is doing it for PR, and in fact, this other side, which is Baba's side, is even doing it for worse PR than the other side. So the fact is, 2022 is going to be a feast for politicians, but nothing for the mwananchi. For sure, I can assure you, we're going to be in a bad shape going forward. Shilling itaanguka, there's no healthcare, dilapidated agriculture, is completely nothing for the common mwananchi. But as we buy cars and make positions for our guys who are in politics, right? But for the commoner, especially if you ever lost anyone to malaria, if you ever lost anyone because of the shitty healthcare and everything that's not working, I mean, this functional health system in the villages and other things, you realize there's really nothing. Now, the same people now, the same villagers now, ndio sahii wameanza kuambuka. Sahii sasa tunaongelea deep state, tutaongelea what? If you're not questioning people about, tell me about how you're going to ensure healthcare, how you're going to ensure I have roads, how you're going to ensure watoto wako na very fantastic education system. No one is speaking about that. We're speaking about bottom up, which one is now we're changing the conversation deep state. To me, this doesn't make sense. And especially now to come Benson, subscribing to that, in my view, it's not the right mindset of saying we are now subscribing to deep state. Because deep state will never, you're not deep state. Maybe if you are, that's
Benson,
fine.
let me ask you, Ronald, let me ask you a question. Yeah, even as you continue. Okay, don't you think there is a paradigm shift when Trump left power and there is Biden? Or according to you, they are just the same? Whether it was Trump to continue or Biden to continue, they are just one and the same thing. Don't you think there is a paradigm shift when Kibaki came than when we were having Moi? They may have a sense of whether it's deep state or maybe those people tunasema wenye inji. But at the end of the day, even wenye inji also have interest to protect, and they see that there is a candidate who may be fair. Sometimes they normally say that in a country of blind people, a person with one eye is the king, because at least he can see. So in other words, we are not saying there is one side that is an angel and the other side that is completely wicked, but we are saying we are choosing representative amongst us. And so even when in your own family there is even a child you prefer, this one is better, is better placed to do this. So don't you think amongst our leaders, they may not be good, yes, but at least you may say that out of this, actually we choose, even in an interview, they choose among the people who have presented their CV. Amongst the people who have presented their CV to Kenyans, don't you think there is one person you think he may not be the best, but he can be better than the rest? I think that is what democracy is all about.
Okay, so you started by asking me whether you think it's the same paradigm shift that is happening 2022 and 202. I will say that these are two different ballgames. You can't compare the reform agenda that Kibaki had with what the jokes we're having now. Sumona, that's one thing he says. I mean, I enjoyed the fruits za Kibaki when he came in power, right? In 202, 203. Got to start getting free books, free primary education, things happening, all this. Whatever we're hearing now, you're just hearsays. Tutapeana hii, without making concrete economic decisions, are never made like that. Then ukaniuliza whether it's, I mean, the thing is, come 2022, in my view, kama tu tukesema we want to vote like 202, right? Kama tu tukesema, then the conversation ya deep state haingekuwa, because conversation ya deep state haingekuwa, na ingekuwa ya kwamba 2022 is going to be Raila is going to take it. Like now that we are now introducing the issue of we are deep state, associating Raila and deep state is a killer in my view, because that propagates this other agenda that is agendaless in my view. These are the wheelbarrow, because how are you wheelbarrow itasaidia nini mtu wa ushago, for example? So that as much as that side is idealist, but this other side now being associated with deep state, it's even making things worse for people. And even somebody in the village anaona afadhali associate na huyu hustler ama huyu whatever, which in real sense they really understand, they don't know what the meaning of all those things.
Yeah, but for you are an academician, leave alone the villager. Because even when you go to Congo, this guy called Chisedeki or whoever. He was associated with with Deepstate. But this guy, when you look at how he's governing the country, he's sober and he's better placed. So this is election. Election time will go, and the reality of the man in chose remains.
Let me tell you, Wekesa.
Yes.
In my view, the thing is, if Raila can win in 2022, which happened with Kibaki, by the way, Kibaki in 2002 won, but what happened after that? They had so many election pacts with the likes of Wamalwa and the likes of the rest, Kilus and the rest. Even with Raila Odinga himself, what happened after that? Because now the state operators will come running for you, right? So if the same thing is going to happen, for example, we say Raila wins, and these other guys now are coming to say, unless atakuwa too strong enough to say, hey, I'm the president, guys, you know, I know you're deep state, I know you're whatever, but I'm the president, and I can do this and this and this with my own thing. Then me I'm respect as a statesman. But if you win, then you go, because deep state imesaidia in Kenya? Nothing completely. It's just amassing 40% or 50% of wealth for a few, 2 or 3 or 10 individuals at the expense of 50 million Kenyans who are suffering in poverty in the villages. So unless kama ataingia na ashira COVID in your deep state, which is fine, but itakuwa tu, I mean, normal life will be continue. Wasisi wanyonge huko ushago tutaumia tu, nothing. Jobs, hakutakuwa na jobs, completely nothing, because we are electing people who are reform agenda iko chini. So my view is,
let me ask you the last question, even as you mean.
Yes.
When opposition had almost given up on Moi, and Raila decided that for me to deal with this I have to join them, have a marcher. After the marcher, that is why they say that Tinga destroyed Kanu from within. And you look at even Jubilee was a united force. But when it ended, even the DP is saying that he came and destroyed Jubilee. So, could it be his own strategy of sometimes you don't have always to be combative? The way maybe Mikuna is doing, you are combating from far. And sometimes people think that is how to become a hero. And you can be a hero from outside and you'll never be in government. And therefore, the ideas you are agitating will never rule. And so people, there's a generation, let's say even in Zimbabwe, there's a generation that yearned for change, but they never saw it. Because maybe somebody was not strategic enough to change the way of thinking and see that we can still have, there's a way we can handle this Mugabe and get power. You can decide to combat him until maybe you go to the grave and you have never achieved something. So don't you think maybe the change of strategy, he may not, okay, of course there will be, every system has its own challenges. Like when you cohabit with somebody, there is a level at which you will have to bear the consequences. But again, that's why people are calling Raila's presidency as a transitional presidency. So sometimes you may not get the full change you want, but you may get a level of transition in which you can prepare for change.
Yeah, so I think my submission on that will be this. So if that is the card that he's playing, then that will be like well and good. 2, he already has a scorecard yenye like akona card yenye atakana ajirate nayo. And the thing is, as Kenyans, for example, you're not expecting anything lesser than what Kibaki did, like in terms of economic development. So if you're getting there and you want to take us back to wherever, maybe between the worst time ever between 2013 and now, and of course comparing that this same time also compare na wakati wa Moi, it's going to be the worst thing ever that will ever have happened. On the other hand, Pia, this is other team that is agitating, of course, mainly operating through false pretense. When you want to be, the thing is, and I come from the village, right? I don't have to look poor to be called a poor man, right? And that's what happened with this other side, because you have to go to this hotel, very very nice fabricated mud wall hotel, for you to be known as a mtu wa chini. But in real sense, umekuja kwa hiyo nini, the real people who go there hata wananga viatu hawananga anything. Umekuja hapo na vitu serious, unataka kuingia hapo because for PR. The thing is, any sane person will not buy that cheap PR. And of course, the Andy and the rest that I saw here, those are the people who are buying the bullshit from the other side, because maybe that is how they earn their meal. But in terms of earning your meal as a citizen, you'll need economic development that makes sense. That side doesn't have anything, in my view. I might be wrong, but for sure, your side, you are anyway.
Thank you for your submission. Let's have inawezekana.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, guys from all over the world. Thank you, Mr. Wekesa, for allowing me to do my small presentation. I don't have actually long something enough to say, but I will just like to say that as Kenyans, tunafaa tuamue ni nani tunataka kupigia kura. When you listen to some Kenyans wanasema sasa baba aliingia kwa hii alijoin Jubilee, the party which is failing, unaona, so they are just giving up. I think deep state exists, and I have very good evidence why it exists. Kimemia alisema
Can I try?
He's gone.
Yeah, can you do it before he comes? Let's have Kabi Mosh.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Mine is a brief submission. I hope I'm audible enough. So my first point is, number one, deep state exists. My first addition on that, the difference between now and the Moi era is access to information. Before Moi, we only had one radio station, that was KBC. And KBC was dictated upon what it was supposed to broadcast. During those days, we never had Facebook. There were not these technologies. So people were being oppressed. That's why we had the Sabasaba issues. We had the fight for multi-party democracy. I've not had anybody mention them. They're just mentioning about the 202. During Moi era, it was dictatorial. It was one party thing. It was either you vote for Moi or that was it. So if you look at that, it had already been in place. So what has happened that now makes the deep state look an issue at this moment? Number one, we are now aware that it exists from what Raila has gone through. Number two, deep state exists because it is the system that controls who we are. In Kenya, let me not lie to everybody on this platform that presidency is a cartel. It's all over the world, even in the United States. It's controlled by the big business moguls of this world that we know. In Kenya, we have the equities of this country. We have the central banks of this country. We have the KRA. We have the Kenya. We have the military. If you look at those dockets, who leads these dockets? Just a small snapshot of the whole system. That tells you, if you look at the guys who top those positions, not to forget areas like the areas like medicine. That's why you find that somebody will just be picked to be a minister of health to safeguard certain interests. I'm not afraid to say so, because that is what we are at the moment. Look at the Ministry of Defense. Those are very serious dockets, never to be left in the hands of any person in this country. Francis Kimemia only iced what is already there by telling us that the deep state in fact exists, because previously it was a hypothesis. We were never sure. Nobody could stand strong because Raila was always complaining, mnanibia, mnanibia. So the side that was always being favored, they felt like Raila is not serious. Perhaps what he's trying to communicate doesn't add up. But today these guys they're publicly confessing what they used to do. So at this moment, let's agree. Kenya, number one, you are poor because you are poor in this country. You don't know anybody. You don't have access to these big people. They don't come from where you come from. Even if they come from there, they don't know you. That's why you are who we are. And on the youths of this country, when I connect it to the deep state story, most of us are just praising the deep state concept because we don't have powers. Truth be told, what can I change today? I only have a single vote. If the youths of this country could be the guys working behind the system, because the system is simply the computerized mechanisms. That is the first area, the ICT strategy that works within the electoral systems. So once these systems have been compromised from the ECK, it comes through all these channels. They are doctored at different levels. We are announced the results that were never voted for. At that point, we have no power. We, the youth, some of the youths are programmers who can always be taken by these systems to work for them. So if at some point, some cleaning of the system can be done, whereby people who have been brought to do such scam can now do the right thing, the country can have a change. So before I end, I'd like to say the deep state exists, so let's not dispute from that fact. The 202 concept that people have been mentioning, that was just a litmus test of what could happen if Moi could have brought somebody with no experience, who had never led from history to that big presidential position. This person was not known by the business community of this country. And mark you, the 7th president of this country, as we speak today, in terms of probability, they are already known because of the system. The next president of this country is already known because of the system. After the 5th president, the 6th president is already in store for us because of the system. Most of us are fighting here, but we don't have the powers. So if maybe we could be given the power to change what is already there, because it's a challenge. As much as we are trying to run away from the fact, it's still a challenge. It shall eat into us. Yes.
Mosh, does
Yes.
that explain why maybe we have an increasing voter apathy, where people think
Yes.
like, even if I vote, my friend, my vote doesn't count?
Yes. So on commenting on that, voter apathy is there because the youths have been left out in the whole system. Who are jobless today? They are the youths. They talk about marginalization. The youth have been marginalized. What at the moment as you speak, what is the unemployment rate among the youths? 60%. Look at that. If I vote today, I'm employing somebody into authority. Will this person employ me? Today, they'll come to my kiosk, eat at my kibanda, ugali and sukuma wiki. After I've given them the presidency, will they come back to that the same kibanda? Those are some of the issues that I'm now making. And number two, remember, these youths are also gaining more information on their roles as citizens. That's why you have the vote apathy. We cannot blame them. These guys are jobless. These guys are hungry. These guys have no hopes because the system has failed them. We go through school, we graduate. I get my first degree because I don't have a job. I opt for a master's because I think that if I do that paper, I'll get something better. I go for that master's program. At the end of it, I get no job. I opt for a PhD to be a lecturer. I'm paid peanuts. What does this country stand for to me as a youth? Then why should I vote? What is the outcome? Voter apathy. Simple. I think that is my submission.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Inawezekana you are back. Can you finish your submission? Sorry for the network challenges.
Yes, sorry, I had a small network problem, but I was saying deep state exists.
James, how are you? James, ngoja kidogo, inawezekana. James.
Yes. How are you?
James, unasikia?
Nakusikia.
Ya, nishikilie for 5 minutes na nikunywe maji narudi.
Okay.
Acha, inawezekana akisubmit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inawezekana, endelea.
Yes, asanti Wekesa na James. Venye nilikuwa nasema deep state exists and it's becoming a thorn in the flesh of DP supporters. I think wao wako na machungu kwa sababu they know the influence of the deep state and they know who the deep state really is supporting right now at the moment. They know what the deep state does, what it can actually do, and no matter what they try to do, wanajua ni nini deep state itafanya. So deep state has been existing and ninaona ni kama to some extent it's good for it to exist. Ingawaje few years ago mimi and the Odinga people hatukuwa tunakubaliana nayo because it was not supporting our candidate. But when you come to look at it in a broader sense, unakuja kupata ya kwamba these guys they wanaangalia among the candidates according to the way Kimemia explain the way he put it, alisema ya kwamba wanaangalia ni candidate mgani mzuri kati ya hawa wawili ambao they are likely to have a 50-50 chance of becoming the winner. So unaona the deep state wanaangalia, wanaona ni mgani ndio wako beta na ni mgani ni mzuri, akiwachiwa nchi atafanya. So hawa watu mimi ningependa tu kuambia wasilalamike. They walikuwa wanakuja kufanyia kitu mbaya nchi, so they should not complain, na wanafaa they just need to give us peace because they never gave us peace during our
Can
time.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Mr. James.
Yes. Now, when you say you say that the ones complaining already know how the system works.
Yes.
And they know that they are up an uphill task of winning the next elections. Is that your submission?
Yes, that's my submission.
Do you then think perhaps this could be a recipe for chaos, especially you do not when tunasema kwamba mwizi hatakangi kuibiwa, na kwa sababu anajua vile utafanya na yeye atafanya. Is that a possibility?
Unfortunately, I have to say yes. It's the future, the front huko mbele inakaa mbaya sana. It looks nasty and I'm hoping it does not turn out to be in such a manner. But that's the most probable thing to happen, because these guys, mtanikubalia ni wataja in that manner. These guys, they use double tongue. Wanasema hii wakisema kwa njia nzuri, lakini in turn ni wao ndio wako on this other opposite side. Ninasema nini? Nasema yani wao ndio wanataka kujiweka kwa njia nzuri, lakini in true sense wao ndio wako kwa njia mbaya. Wanasema sisi tunataka amani, sisi tunataka hivi, lakini chini ya maji wao ndio wanataka sasa kuincite. Sasa nyinyi mtakubali kushindwa, nyinyi mtafanya nini? If you listen to these guys venye wanaongea in their clips, I don't want to mention them, but ukiwasikiza venye wanaongea and their watu wa chini yao wanasema sisi hatutakubali hii ifanyike, hawa watu tunawapima venye wanaendelea kufanya mambo yao. If you listen to them carefully, you will know where our country is headed to. So unfortunately our country, the way I feel, is headed in that direction now, and it's not good. But deep state exists and it will do what we know they will do.
Now, when you say that, what we do as citizens then, that we are only aware that two bulls will be fighting, and they know where and the rules and how they change the rules of the game to favor themselves. And now, because the foot is on the other foot, the shoe is on the other foot, then it heightens the possibility of the public getting into a crossfire.
Yes, what I always tell my any Kenyan mwenye nakutananga na yeye, that is the least that I can do. What I always tell people is that you should listen carefully to what these leaders are saying. Unajua wa Kenya, most of us Kenyans, we just want to follow the wave, what is very fashionable. Sasa ukisikia bottom up, you just want to follow it because now we are suffering, now we are hustlers, now these guys, hawa matajiri wanaungana wako hii upande ingine. So we should not be like that. We should not be just following the wave. We should be following the good things that are being said, who makes sense among these leaders. Those are the guys that we should be following, because mwishowe ni sisi ndio tutaumia. Sijui kama ninaeleweka. Mwishowe ni sisi tutaumia. You know, Kenyans are not going to turn up in large numbers. There is going to be voter apathy. Ukiangalia hii registration ambayo imekamilika, there is going to be voter apathy. What should be done ni Wakenya wasikize ni kiongozi mgani anaongea ukweli, na wajitokeze in large numbers to make sure that they vote for that candidate. That's if kama ninaeleweka. The best thing that Kenyans should do, if you ask me that question correctly, is to listen to the right candidate and turn up in large numbers and vote for that candidate. Yeah.
Kuna mtu ana swali? Kuna mtu ana swali?
Yeah, I'm just asking,
Who is this?
I'm Ben.
Ben. Ask the question. Yes, ask the question.
Now, according to this projectoria IBC, where they were expecting 6 to 7 million to register, it was based on what? If you people can know.
It was based on the identification card registration since the last mass registration of voters.
Yes. So it means these were new voters.
Yes.
Basically, they are new voters. Yes.
Who have turned 18 between 2017 to now.
Yes, and some had not taken their votes even as we went to the last elections.
Okay.
But they entertained the age of 18. But what we is that this is a vote bank that some quarters were even banking on, and they were flouting it around as the people to make the decision on who becomes the next president. That should be something that of quite some concern. And maybe to ask ourselves, is it an induced? It is a system-induced voter suppression, or is it a natural cause of frustration of our youth? Anybody who can come in with that?
Can I come in? According to my knowledge, Gabi, can I just come in? According to my knowledge, I don't think
just
it is.
Finish and then I take over.
Okay, I don't think it's induced by individuals. Sidhani kama ni wananchi ndio wanafeel hivyo. I believe to the
system.
Yeah, I believe it's the system that is inducing this one. In a larger extent, I believe it's the system, but to some extent pia I believe it's wananchi wanafeel wameboeka na because nothing is happening for them. But to the larger extent ni kwamba the system imekuwa ikifanya hii mambo imekuwa like if people can remember and if people believed in this, there was this 54% trend. I think some people will disagree with me, but there was this 54% trend that was happening in the general election 2017. You could see a candidate, not even presidential results, but kungeangalia kama Kirinyaga, unaona huyu candidate amepata 54 na huyo mwingine amepata less than 50%. So it is inaitwaje, system induced, ndio maana kunakuwa na hii pia, hata ndio sasa inaleta voter apathy, watu sasa hata wajitokezi kupiga kura. So
then right,
yeah.
Is it then right to say that the system works by use of intelligence and the simulation of scenarios and the simulation of scenarios to achieve its objective.
I believe in that 100%.
I can also add on what Inawezekana has just said. In the last general election, we had this regression model. I don't know if you were keen on the court sessions. There was this linear, there was this linear model that was already computer generated. So what was happening? If one person increased a vote, the other guy had to decline a vote. So it was already a programmed computer system that was changing as the votes were coming in. So so number two, IEBC could have been overambitious with the expected number of new voters. That is my second point, because we were in the census just recently and we saw the numbers. I can't understand where they came with where they came from with the 4.5 million number of new voters, because it was not candid. Because we never, if you look at 2017 and 2020, how many years are this? So most of these people, number one, some of them must have been students. Number two, some of them were either very sick, who cannot turn up to vote. Number three, some of them are also dead with no death certificate to show. Number four, we also have this group that just don't want to register, the voter apathy group. And number five, we have these guys who are now willing to go and register as voters. Number six, we have this group that is so excited to vote for the very first time. So each of these categories, they have their different considerations in terms of inclusion in the system. So what I could advise is, maybe the numbers were too high, so they budgeted for a very big number that was not practical. Number two, the time limit, they could not meet in such a short time schedule. Number three, consideration of the voter apathy concept. That is just looking into what are the likes, as Inawezekana has just mentioned. Yes?
Can I make you aware that as we went to the last elections, about 2 million voters, potential voters, were crossed off after the deadline, particularly in what we were calling NASA zones by that time. So also those ones are youths who are yet to take votes. Are you aware?
Yes, I'm aware.
So you cannot say the numbers are too high. In fact, I believe they underquoted the figure.
You know, you may be right, or I may be right. It's 50-50. My consideration is this: I was in the census team as I speak to you, and I saw the numbers. We could have 2 million in 2017. Demographics do change. There are guys who have died. You know, as we speak today, there are almost 1,000 guys have died this moment that we are speaking with you. And at the same time, there are guys who've been born to replace the same numbers and even more, if you consider the crude birth rates and the crude death rates. So that's inclusion. If we had 2 million by then, we are not sure that these 2 million are still at the moment. And even not sure the addition that is coming in, that are very young people who are just given birth to in 2017 have attained the age of 18. So if we talk about a constant, in demographics, we don't have constants. All of these people are always variables. We keep varying each day, day in, day out. That is why I had my point when I said that it can be an estimate. An estimate is subject to an error. So 4.5 million could have been what they looked at by 2017, looking into how the number of IDs have been taken at the moment, not forgetting that some have also died. Some also have also left the system. That's what I can say.
Okay, and what about the government? The government are saying it is not extending that period. It is not. In other words, it means if we have only registered maybe 1 million, that is what it will add to the other figure.
Yes, as at yesterday it was.
Yes.
As at yesterday, we had 800,000.
Okay.
As at yesterday.
Let's assume by close of today it was nearly 1 million across the country. And would you then say, and the government has categorically said through the chairman of the finance committee that they will not earn even a single day. Could this be
Yes.
part of the system? Trying to manage the objective which they want to achieve?
Number one, I can say no. I can say no. Because yesterday there was a court order. Did you hear about it? That had declared the extension of the period.
They have
Coming
since
today,
said they will not go by it.
yes, coming today, there were budget constraints from the IEBC.
Yes.
Yesterday, Kanini Kega, the chair of the finance in parliament, stated categorically that they are yet to review, though they don't have the money at the moment. They are not seeing opening it any more for this year, but opening it at the start of next year. You know, we are voting in August.
Yes.
So between January and August, so many things can still change. So I see a possibility of doing it in January or in other months before the election. Because it's just adding the numbers, it can't affect the voting process. Just inclusion, and then they're in the system to do the voting. Yes.
Demba, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You have anything to say?
Not as now.
Okay. Who has a question for the topic?
James.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, it's not a question, but it's just a continuation. I'm just trying. I'm saying it's. I strongly believe the system is deeply involved in also even in this voter registration. I said it's to some extent it's just the people it's just the people who are not interested in voting, but to the larger extent, I believe it's the system that is trying to control the situation. They want to work with their own maths. Yeah, that's why they are strongly claiming that it's only this month. And I don't think, even if there will be a second registration exercise, I believe they will not really go into it. So I strongly believe it's a government or a system controlled. They want to stick to these figures to come out with what they have already calculated. That's just me.
Some time back, if I refresh your mind, the vice chairman of Jubilee said that going to the last elections, they looked at the figures of new voters, potential voters, and discovered that the Jubilee winning zones had about 2 million, while the NASA zones were having about 4.7 million potential voters. And therefore, he said they actually put in place very vigorous and intensified plans to make sure the 2 million in Jubilee zones were all registered, and they nearly registered almost everyone. So by the time, according to him, by the time the voter registration was closing down, the voter registration was almost equal in the two political zones. Now, do you see this happening? And do you see like there is a deliberate government plan either to encourage and discourage voter registration depending on the objective that the system or the deep state would want to see? Anybody who has that any perspective in that way? Who wants to pick up from there?
Yes, I can go.
Them.
Yeah, you know, when we hear about the concept of deep state, it's an interesting scenario. Actually, the people who are coming up with the deep state scenario are the Tanga guys. They are the ones who have claimed about deep state. And in my view, it is a push to try and project whoever will be supported by, rather to explain their campaign, and they have said in no uncertain terms that is their direction. Election goes through, first of all, is voter registration, then there's vote casting, then there's vote counting, and of course results transmission. Now, in the past, there has been interferences. That's why in several court cases, that has been contested. 2017 was contested, 2013 was contested, 2017 was contested. So for that particular reason, therefore, the people who have been benefiting from the state machinery have a reason to complain, you see, because they have been privy to, like inawezekana say, they have been privy to how the system, probably if it worked for them, or the manipulation that worked to their favor. So they have a reason to worry. They have a reason to throw out that early enough. They have a reason to say there's deep state. Now, let me say this for some of us who are thinking, oh, Baba does not need the deep state and stuff. For the last 2017, 2007, 2013, and 2017, the results have shown, especially after the process has gone up there, it has always come out that Baba has been going head to head, and somehow also in some cases like 2007, Kivuito said that he doesn't know who won, and 2017, of course, there were clear interferences. 2013, you could see, but it was neither here nor there. So there's something about deep state, so to speak, that the other team, that is Tangatanga, is worried about. And with or without an interference, definitely, if there's gonna be a win from the Baba team, there will be claims of deep state interference, because for them, anything that is happening that is supported by the state, it's enjoying the system's blessings. I would wish that they put the faces to these systems, that they say that, okay, fine, this is how the system works, because the DP is still the deputy president of this country. He knows how he got into power. He knows how they won it, according to him. And if indeed he says there's a deep state, then he must be the deep state, because he goes everywhere saying that I'm the one who helped Uhuru to become the president. And the other day, when they were at Kajiado, Duale said that the 8 million Kenyans who voted for Uhuru, so they are aware there are people who vote, but they're still going ahead and saying there's a deep state. You see, so there's lack of consistency. If they won free and square, it is possible that any other person can also win free and square. So in my view, this deep state thing is more of a desperate campaign or a propaganda to try and woo voters, to make them believe that they are with the people. Remember, in the past 2007, 2013, and 2017, Baba has been the one saying he is with the people and he has been the people's president. So if they keep pushing the idea that there's a deep state, they'll succeed in trying to make people not believe that the other people have supporters. So that's the intention. So the more they push the narrative that there's a deep state, the more they're thinking people will believe that the other team has no people. They're not with the people in the ground. And constantly, if you listen to them, they have been trying to push that narrative.
Demba, if then I ask you, you remember Raila served as a prime minister, which was quite senior position in the government. And then subsequently he went to contest for the presidency. Does it mean then he was not able to penetrate the system and use it? And again, is that also his brother saying that for the first time Raila stands a chance because he has the system on his side? Could you perhaps enlighten us on what the situation is there?
On Raila becoming the prime minister, you remember they had lots of issues around that time, to the extent that even Raila saying that wherever he goes, he's not given. Actually, the way Ruto is being treated right now is the way Raila was treated in 2020, I think 2007. You know, because immediately he got in, there was a kind of lack of support after some time from the Kibaki people. And it was even around that time where, I mean, history is repeating itself. In 2007, Raila comes in as a prime minister, but towards 2013, Uhuru, who was in the opposition, joins and becomes the preference of the party that is ruling, right? So history is kind of repeating itself. In 2022. Ruto, who was in government, is out. Raila, who is apparent, leader of the other side of there's no opposition of the minority side, is now gotten into the government, and it seems to be supported by the government of the day. So the system, as it were, is perceived as being supported by the government of the day. In my view, I think that was that's what definitely, in my view, I think Oburu meant. That when you're in the previous part, the narrative has been that the government of the day has had his hand in interfering with the process, as seen in 2007, as seen in 2013,
Okay.
and as seen in 2017. So this coming in, and I really think that would be an unfortunate statement if they would wish to have some sense of control, because Baba has won with or without the interference on the government of the day. But now when probably that is supposed to be used as telling them that, okay, fine, there's an assurance that there will be no interferences from the government of the day in terms of the voting. I can assure you, even if Uhuru would just stay away and not interfere, just allow the process to go, so that you have, if it is Oka, they have their candidate. If it is Raila, he has his candidate. I mean, Raila becomes a candidate, Ruto. I tell you, even if you would not, I think that will be the best case scenario, so that there's no perception of this. But again, by saying that, okay, fine, they believe they were denied in 2007, they were denied in 2013, they were denied in 2017 because of the government of the day's interference with the process, then that could be trying to persuade the voters that whatever it is that has been making us not get there, it's now being removed. But now the other guys are saying, this guy is a guy of the system, we are now the people. You see, now the narrative is now changing.
Yes, can we now hear from, is there a Tanga supporter in the room?
Yes. Nikose nichekwe. Tanga niko hapa. Naweza ongea?
Sema. Hello?
Okay.
Yes.
Asante sana James One.
Yes, go ahead.
Anayeongea bana naitwa Clinton. Sasa nataka kuwashukuru wana ODM ama hao inawezekana kwa kukubali kwamba baba yu serikalini na sisi Tangatanga tunalia kuna system. Kama party leader William anaweza kuongelea system, then ni ukweli ina exist. na pia ni ukweli kwamba William Ruto anajua venye system inafanya kazi, kwa sababu system ndio ilimweka pale alipo sasa hivi. So mimi nashindwa na watu wa ODM kwamba mnatuambia William Ruto is the system himself, na mnajua system ndio imekuwa ikiwanyang'anya uchaguzi 2013, hizo ma 20s zote mmekuwa mkivai. Sasa kama anajua venye system ina work na ndio hii ako na nyinyi kwenye kinyang'anyiro, simtoke tu mapema juu ni system, anajua venye ina work, so tu assume tu ataichukua hivyo asubuhi na mapema. Another thing, Bwana James, watu wa ODM wanasema kwamba Raila anaenda kuchukua uongozi juu system this time round iko na yeye. I'm also wondering why the president himself anakazia kina Mudavadi wa support Raila. Si Raila anaweza vai na system kama running mate bila kina Mudavadi na ashinde? Mbona kuna miungano wanatafuta mara kila weekend wanaadvaisiwa msipoungana mtashindwa? Kwani si akona system na akona uhuru na akona kila kitu? The guy can go it alone.
Nikuulize.
Yes.
Unajua hata hii system huwa na mipango, si ati ina kimya tu, na akiwa ni kwamba kuwaleta pamoja hawa wale wanaenda kwa njia ya mlengo wao, ndio majukumu ya system itawezekana. Pasi na liwe liwalo, na nafikiria hiyo ndio inafanyika kwa kufikiria kwangu. Si ati system inaketi tu ili itumie njia zingine za mkato. Hapana, ni kwamba wana advantage kwamba wanaweza panga wakijua hata the deeper statistics. They are aware of the intelligence across the country. Huwezi fikiria hiyo ni advantage ambayo wanayo.
Okay, so hapo kwa statistics umegonga ndipo, kwa sababu Deepstate wanakuibia kura kama umeshinda na hujashinda sana, unaelewa? But huwezi shinda na kura milioni 2 and above na wapate mwanya ya kukuibia kura. That's why kuna analyst alisema if we have to beat William Ruto then we have to beat him seriously. Lakini tukimshinda na kura nusu milioni alafu apate ameibiwa mahali, kuna place amechezewa kidogo, atatumia hiyo opportunity ku reject hiyo election, unaelewa? So kama ni kushindwa, ashindwe kabisa, ile serious. Jamaa aone hapa ameachiwa 1.5, hapa ameachiwa nusu milioni, apigwe na kura milioni 3 and above. Then jamaa aseme tu hapa, hata kama ni kwenda kuipinga, I won't manage it. And then there is something I also like about my party leader Dr. William, kwamba hao wanaume wote wameungana against him, but amesema lazima amalize hii race yenye alianzisha, unaelewa? And I don't always support William, but I may be forced to vote him next year, not because of the agenda he's selling, but I just want to know why this time round all these guys are ganging up against him. Na hawatuambii reason.
Demba, let me ask this.
Just wait.
Can I come in?
Okay, I just want. Let me control the. Just keep quiet first. Demba ask a question and then we move to the next speaker.
You know, I like the way Clinton and his other Tanga supporters usually come and the same narrative they give us in the political podiums is the same narrative they are bringing here. There's nobody who is in this thing to lose. What makes you think that that people are meeting to defeat Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and not to be president. That's a tired narrative.
Answer that question.
That's a tired narrative. So you can give us something else, because Ruto is there to be president. Everybody is there to be president. If he wanted to get it without competition, he should say that. So they don't start asking. It's like Kipchoge Keino, when they are going to run, he's won many races. So he's saying all the other runners are coming to defeat him.
Clifford.
Can I come in?
But Temba, it is on record when nyinyi watu wa NASA viongozi wenu mkisema kwamba Kalonzo au ma principals wote, alafu kitu uniuma mimi kama mtu wa Tangatanga, hadi Weta anaitwa principal na ni seneta moja tu kwa chama, but in life. So wakati Ngilu ana advise, msipoungana mtashindwa na William Ruto. This competition is mnaungana to compete against William Ruto. That's what I meant.
Let me ask
I know
you.
Baba wants to be president.
Okay, let me ask you. Have you read the interview by One Jirongo? He seems to have deeper information why all the others would not want to align themselves with this man. I don't know whether it is true what he said or whether it is not true, but I think it is something worth studying, because it is also funny that you can be hated by all the political heavyweights.
Yeah, that one I can answer use of fort. Man, when William Ruto supported Raila Odinga, alikuwa mweupe. Jirongo alikuwepo hiyo time, hakusema haya maneno yote anatuambia sasa hivi.
Clinton.
Mnatuambia sasa hivi.
Clinton.
Wait Temba. Ngoja tu niseme hii nimalize.
Wacha amalize.
Yeah, I just want to finish na mwingine achukue usukani. So, Bwana James, Jirongo alifanya kazi na William Ruto kwa hiyo sijui YK 92 something. Nilikuwa mtoto mdogo enzi hizo.
Na akamuibia, ndiye alisema.
Hatutaki kujua kama aliibiwa ama hakuibiwa, but walifanya kazi pamoja. Wakapart ways politically. Kila mtu alikuwa na interest zake. In fact nakumbuka William akituambia ati Jirongo ananikasirikia na mimi nilimwambia siasa ni kujipanga. Na hiyo time walikuwa wanajipanga, mnatuambia William Ruto ataleta uongozi kama ya Moi. Who was Moi's project in 2002? Moi alisupport nani? Ukiachana na mwenye Moi alisupport. In 2013 kulikuwa na wanaume wengi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila, wangekuwa running mate wa Uhuru Kenyatta.
Nadhani
mbona aliona ni William Ruto anafaa.
Kwa sababu hiyo Clifford,
tukitaka kumtoa mheshimiwa Kibaki, tuliona William Ruto kama mwenye anaweza akatusaidia sisi kama Waluo.
Wacha turunde kwa mada yetu ya leo. Hiyo maneno tumeongea mara mingi sana ya alifanya hapana. Tunasema leo kwamba either system iko ama haiko. Hiyo ndio manda yetu.
But uliniuliza swali outside the system. So nikikujibu turudi kwa mada. But sini live.
Yes.
Acha nimalizie kwa mada basi.
Can I come in?
Wacha tuende kwa manda.
Can I come in?
Yes, come in.
So nimalize in 1 minute ama
in 30 seconds.
Kuna anaongea mpaka kesho. Ukimpatia nafasi ataongea mpaka kesho.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so wewe ongea mpaka kesho.
Am I coming in?
30 seconds. Come in. Who is that asking a question? Nani anauliza swali?
Yes, can I come in?
Yes, come in.
Yes, good evening everyone.
Evening.
Yes, so I would want to say that deep state exists, and the reason why the only person who has made us believe that deep state exists is the Tangatanga group, especially William Ruto. Most of the time when he's going around campaigning and doing everything, at some point when he's aggrieved with Baba, he would say that he's with the system, and for us we are with God, and whoever he thinks he is with. He's decided to monopolize God so that he has God, and those other people coming from the other side are with the system. Now, why would I believe that the system exists? There is that other time that when they were being given the certificate, after it was so acrimonious in 2007, then they were going to receive the certificates. The first person that got there was William Ruto, and during that time we had been promised that something is coming up. They are going to check on it. Chebukati, I think, had talked about checking on it before it's announced, so nobody should be worried. But then, that moment, William Ruto walked into the point, he was able to secure the certificate with the support of the system. Now, I do believe that the system exists just because Ruto has made me believe that it exists. Not that I believe that it exists, but because he has made me believe that it exists. Thank you.
Do you have any way of knowing how it works?
Maybe I could say that the other day we saw Baba meeting so many business people. And you know, these are people with interest. They normally have interest. So they want to look at the kind of person whom maybe their businesses, their families, and any other person can be safe into. So this time, we saw people like SK Macharia coming in. We saw people like Munga coming in. So these are some of the people. These are some of the people when people like Ruto saw Baba with such kind of people, they complained and said that this is the same. Another thing, when now those people they claim to be the system called Kina Mudavadi and Kalonzo and any other person to come meet them, and there are few people who did not attend. They claim that the system was not there full. So maybe that is how the system works.
Some people say that our politics is about money.
Yes.
Ethnic mobilization, how many people are behind you,
yes,
and the system, meaning
yes,
the government, how the government can facilitate you to achieve your objectives of attaining or retaining power.
But I think
now,
I think our politics is about not just our politics in Kenya, but all over the world. You remember in the US when Obama were running, you realize that they were going out looking for sponsors. So we cannot say that every politics all over the world is just about the money, not just our politics.
Why, in your estimation, is it that Tanga has made it their campaign pitch about the so-called system and the deep state?
Because they know how the deep state works. In fact, they've even taught us, and they've even taught us how the deep state works. So I think since it has worked for them, they actually lost an election. Let's agree on that. They lost an election in 2007. The Tanga lost an election in 2013. They lost an election in 2017. But the system found a way of making it appear like they won the election. But when we went to the only way we can approve that it didn't, I mean they really lost an election, is whatever the courts brought through. For example, in 2013, Mutunga, this guy who claims that now is the best and is going for Miguna, is one guy who decided to get rid of some part of our evidence that we presented in the court. So he realized that when we present that evidence, it's not going to work. And if you can remember very clearly, we had issues like, oh, he was abducted or something happened, or the family, that kind of thing. You know, there can never, when there can never be smoke without fire. Yeah. So that is how it works.
Oh.
Yes.
With the question on that matter, or would want to chip in?
Yeah, can I
Yes,
just
go
repeat
ahead.
something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, there was that sound that was distracting. I would just like to repeat something or maybe insist. You know, this question that has been asked here, I believe it's a very heavy question, and we are not meeting an equal answer with the exact heaviness of the answer that it should deserve.
Go
And
ahead and
James,
give us the answer.
I don't have it,
Go
but
ahead.
I'm trying to maybe expound so that maybe the panelists can understand what this question is all about. And James, you have also been trying to ask the same questions that are related to this major question. I strongly believe that the deep state is very much involved in our elections. Even to some extent, I believe it's even involved to the MCA positions, or even the gubernatorial positions. So that's why you see the deputy is really talking about the deep state having influence on these elections. It's because he knows exactly what happens during the elections, and he knows that this time round he does not have his hands in controlling the outcome of this election. I believe Gabi Mosh will agree with me that the deep state is highly involved in these elections. You know, so maybe I just want to hear from panelists to answer, to like try to expound and explain if you have the information. But this is my strong feeling that the deep state have a great influence in these elections.
I think I can add on. I
Gabi,
can try to.
Let
just a
me
minute.
ask.
Gabi,
let me try to answer. My first point is election financing. Some of these members of the deep state is like what people call the cartels. So it's a group of very powerful individuals in this country who they control the economy, they control the society, and how Kenya operates generally. So in election financing, during election financing, all these presidential elections are always financed. Once financed, everybody takes allegiance to either sides, depending on that. For instance, at the moment you see Jimmy Wanjigi is not in terms with Raila Odinga as we speak because of election financing. So you find that some of these systems, once they come in with the financial muscle, they expect repatriation at the end of the deal. So once I get the presidency, business A, I'll control it. Then the other person will also control another business. So you find that most of these guys are just there for interests. So the problem that we have at the moment is when Uhuru Kenyatta was working with William Ruto, there was some confidentiality. There was trust. They knew what the system was all about, and they saw the dirty work they did. So when they shook hands with Raila Odinga, it was like there was a mistrust that was created. So William Ruto felt it's like it was some form of betrayal. That is where the system comes in, because this, you know, the most considered person in presidency is always the president at all times. So once I've been instilled into the presidency, I assume that everybody around me will have to be loyal until I finish my game. So the disloyalty that has played around is what has opened up the discussion about the system, because we never knew. That is where the issue of the dynasty and the hustlers was born, because someone felt like they are going to be disorganized using the system that they also used to disorganize Raila Odinga. So when these two guys are shaking hands, it opens the space. And to add on to a question that was asked before about why is Raila Odinga now the best bet? Number one, interest. We have two horses. You have Raila Odinga and you have William Ruto. Atwoli was just in Jeff Koinange some few weeks ago. There was one point he shouted upon. He asked, "Where are you safe? Where are you safe?" And he insisted about it. That means as politicians, they have people who can protect their interests. Raila Odinga supported Kibaki back in 2002 and Kibaki became a president. Raila Odinga was always with other guys, so he has always been moving around. Even if you look at people around him, he has always been somebody who can support somebody into something. So they assume that if he becomes a president at the moment, even for a term, in the future he can pick another person that is also part of the deep state who can take their interests at heart into presidency through the majority vote with the help of the system. So the system in this case is critical in the sense that, number one, it dictates who becomes the president, whether you have the numbers or you have the almost the numbers, an approximate of the numbers they talk about or the actual numbers. Like in 2007 election, Kibaki had an approximate to the numbers. Raila Odinga had the numbers. What happened? Bloodshed because of the system. So it's just a matter of who holds the system's interest at heart. Who can they trust when they give leadership? Because they can see it clearly between William Ruto and the president at the moment. If when I'm your deputy, I can be disloyal, what about if I'm the president? So these are some of the fears that are now making the system to come up and show us who they actually are. That is now disorienting the other Tanga team, because now they know. These guys already know what they did in the previous elections, and they know these guys are powerful. Remember, Raila Odinga fought the system outside. This time round, Raila Odinga will fight using the system with the majority vote in his hand. So you can imagine what may happen. So the aim of the system in this is simply to decide who becomes the president of any republic, Kenya included. So it's not, it doesn't just end in Kenya. System is even in the developed world. The other day we saw it in China. Jack Ma went missing. Why? Because China, the economic policies in China were not in tandem with what Jack Ma believed in. And being that the president was more powerful, he had to reduce that man by slashing some of who he is. It's the same things applies in our politics and in our country at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, Penny, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Now, welcome. What have you to tell us about this? The system, does it exist, and how powerful is it to a level of determining the direction of elections and who wins?
Okay, thank you. Okay, the deep state exists and is a very powerful animal. That one we have to, it's something that we have to acknowledge. That the deep state is indeed powerful and is an influencer in most cases of who the next president is. But I will say that it's not necessarily always the case, because you will agree with me that in the 2002 elections, despite the fact that the power of the deep state was available and was capable of manipulating the elections otherwise, but still you find that there was a very strong wave against the deep state, and they had no option but to hand over leadership to the former president Kibaki. But however, we will also.
Okay, let me ask you.
Yeah.
There are those who also hold the theory that Kibaki was put there as a transition to a Uhuru presidency, and being the work of the system, and because the system normally looks after its interests, Moi had no problem with Kibaki.
Yeah.
And therefore, it did not matter which party took over as long as he was comfortable with the person who would take over the government. In fact, some say that part of the reason why is that Moi wanted to lock out Raila completely from power. I don't know what you think about that.
Okay, partly I will agree with you because according to my observation, I think Raila presidency seems to be mad with a lot of controversy because we are hoping that he will win for those who are Baba supporters. But one thing we have to acknowledge that his presidency has always been surrounded with a lot of controversy. So I think that is my
What do you think are his chances then, now that he has a system, according to his brother, he has a system on his side?
Okay, like I've just said that we acknowledge the fact that the deep state has a lot of influence in the elections, but I do not agree that it has 100%. I do not think it has 100% say in whoever whoever takes over as the president. Maybe they have a certain percentage, but not exclusively.
Do you think it is justified for Tanga Tanga to cry foul that the system will actually tamper with their votes?
Okay, because the Tangatanga team have been in a situation where the deep state was working for them, so because they know what the deep state is capable of doing, I think they have every reason to fear when now the deep state is supporting the opposite, their opponent. So I think they could be justified, but on the other hand, it could also be a propaganda. You know, the UDA people are very they have mastered the art of propaganda very well. So it could be genuinely that they are scared of the deep state because of the capabilities they know that the deep state has. But on the other hand, it could also be a propaganda for them. Maybe they're the ones who are planning to bungle the elections or maybe to steal the elections. So we might not agree with them 100% because these are masters. They're the masters of propaganda. So it's not necessarily what they are saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody who has a take on that one?
So maybe I didn't finish with my whatever.
Oh, finish.
Maybe I wanted to make a few comments.
Okay, finish.
Yeah, because you interjected with questions. Now, I think to some extent, Tanga guys are reckoning the fact that deep state has some amount of influence because when you look at the way Nandi Senator Cherargei was calling upon the president to sack the CS Matiang'i and Musheru and who else? The CS for information. You see, he was calling upon the president to sack these people, or else he was saying that failure to sack these people is as good as rigging has already started. You see, so you can see that he knows, he has the fears because when the deep state was supporting them, it wasn't a big deal. That is the other hypocrisy that I'm also finding in them. When the deep state was for them, they did not say anything to that effect. But now that they realize that they're in the opposite direction with the deep state, they are now decrying the fact that the CSS are part of the They are part of the committee that is supposed to take care of the security and the safety during the elections. We also saw there's an MP, the Soy MP Caleb Kositan. He was also calling for the removal of CS Matiang'i, Musheru, and other CSs to other dockets because he feels that they are allies of President Uhuru, and therefore they are likely to influence the elections to the other side. So it might not favor them, as in the elections will be compromised. So we can see the forces of deep state at work by the way these people are already expressing sentiments that the presence of these CSS is not going to offer a level playing ground for the elections. They feel that the elections will be biased or rather rigged. So I think that the deep state is a force to reckon with, but only to some extent. I think there's a level to which there could be a small percentage to which the deep state might not influence, but I think the bigger percentage is that the deep state actually is capable of influencing who becomes the president. It's not entirely in control, but I think it has a bigger percentage on the person on the influence of the person who becomes the president.
Yes.
You're done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
James.
Who is that?
Jackson. Jackman.
Hey, Joe, me, I've been here, Bana. Joe, I've been here
Yeah,
waiting.
you go ahead, Joe.
Jackman.
Yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to submit my submissions on how the deep state is interfering with Tanga Tanga. First, I want to acknowledge that deep state exists, and it exists everywhere. Even at the village, when they are appointing a sub-chief or a sub-location, there's always that bigger clan, or there's always, even if it's a small clan, but it's got a financial power, there's always a way that they actually influence the selection of a chief or a sub-chief. When it comes to national level, Ruto he was made who he is with the deep state, right from when he was in ODM. It's the deep state that took him from ODM and put him together with Uhuru because they had a similar case. And it's the deep state that brought him out of ICC. Believe you me, by then, when they went to Hague, Ruto didn't have the financial power even to hire the advocates. It's the deep state that did it for him. He did his part by making the witnesses disappear, but the financial part was a deep state. So this is to say that Ruto knows there's a deep state, and he knows what the deep state can do, the capability of the deep state. What he's doing now as crying wolf is he's just preparing for chaos. Obviously, he has put himself for the last 4 years as a presidential candidate, and he has the followers of the Rift Valley, his community, people from his community. They have believed him so much that at this point he cannot pull off. Even if he wanted to, he cannot pull off. So he's just preparing them that he knows he'll lose, but he's preparing them that if I lose, it is the deep state. Actually, it's Ruto who started this deep state topic. Raila has been competing against the deep state, but he never cries wolf before the elections. He lets the election run. Then when the results are out is when he starts saying this is a rigged elections with evidence. But you see, this guy is crying over 1 year before the elections. That means he knows the machinery, how it works. So he's just preparing his people that I'm going to lose. If I lose, it is not that I lost fairly, but it is the deep state. The other thing is...
But he has already assured the country that there will be no chaos.
Who? Who has assured the country? Hello?
On several occasions, he has assured the country that there will be no chaos.
That is political talk. That is political talk.
For PR.
Yeah, for the PR. If you see the movements of this guy, if you see what happened in his office, if you see how he was cooperating with Bashir, if you see how he's so close with Museveni, he's not a pushover. He's not a pushover. You see, you can be a terrorist coming into the country through the airport. You don't tell people I'm carrying bombs and what have you. You say I'm coming as a tourist. So there's no way Ruto is going to say there's going to be chaos. He has to say it's going to be peaceful. So you cannot buy that talk. But you see his inner movement, his associate. That is Bashir. That is Museveni. And what was happening in the office. If you renew the dots, then you can find out what the kind of man you're dealing with. And also the background of his way he's been conducting politics. We have had so many people missing. For Uhuru, I'll say that Uhuru also knows the deep state exists and he knows how it works. And somebody saying here the deep state, they sponsor, like the businessmen of the Mount Kenya are the people who finance. I can tell you, believe me not, they are not the people who finance. They give little money. This finance comes from the government. Definitely, Atta Twele has been having an opposition. He uses the Kotu money. He doesn't go outside to get some money. Okay, he'll go to some factories that have been asking him for favor, but the bulk of the money comes from the Kotu itself. So this one also, the bulk of the money will come from the government. It is not, I mean, nobody will give his billions just for somebody to be elected when they have access to the CBK. So this is a perception that they're funding, but they're not funding. This is going to be sponsored by the government itself. You can see how Rail is moving now. You can't tell me that these people have already given him money when they're still interviewing OKA. Already the government is using money on Raila. And that's what will happen even during the elections and even during the elections when they start campaigning for real. For Uhuru, I like to say this. Uhuru looks a peaceful man. Not so many African presidents can take a lot of slack like Uhuru has done. Not so many presidents, regardless of the constitution, can persevere what the deputy has done to him. So he means peace. And they've said it, that if people are saying they're tired with the Kenyatta's family, then he can also say the Kenyans are also tired with the Kikuyu and the Kalenjins. And this guy wants peace. And I think out of his wisdom, and maybe having known who Raila is since time memorial, and even what Raila did to his family, if not Raila, Uhuru could not be there as the president's son. So he's just trying to make the playing ground to be level. And I think he sees the best person who can do it is Raila. Raila is a nationalist. He's patriotic. He has proven that beyond any doubt. So these 5 years, he can level the ground. And I know Kenyans, once the ground is level, you can't go against what has been leveled. It'll be very difficult for somebody to go against it. Even the deep states has been there. I mean, deep states have been there, but they can be destroyed and they put another deep state. So deep states are not there forever. Somebody said here that deep states are there until the 7th president. No. We had Obote had a kingdom. It was destroyed completely within less than a year. So once Raila gets to power, and as people believe his patriotism, he can make these elections be. He's been fighting for independence of these institutions. He can make them independent. And once they're independent, my friend, I tell you, nobody will go otherwise beyond that. After the level, after he has put the ground at level, it'll be very hard to go against us, because Kenyans, once something has been done and they see it's good, it's going to be very difficult to tell them otherwise or to do otherwise. They'll go to the streets. So that's what I want to submit for now.
Okay,
Thank
now let me ask you, if you listened to speeches during the burial of Chris Kirubi, and also you've listened to Peter Monga, and also somebody called Wanjigi, you get a picture that there's a class of people who have been planning our politics in the back room. Because you hear they went to Kalonzo's office, house, they went to Musaya's office, they went to this other office and the other one and the other's home. And finally, those coalitions that they craft come out to the public as a united front. Do you see this happening this time? Is it part of the deep state?
Yeah, I can respond this way, that deep states, you can't say that they're also united as such, because they're also looking on people who are favorable to them. So deep state also could be divided to some extent according to their interests. Like if let's say a group of people wanted Mudavadi, but there's also a group of people behind Macharia who have been behind Raila. And Macharia is also a member of the deep state. So you'll find even within the deep state, they'll always be divided. They can, like right now, you see Mount Kenya have been voting as one block. But even within one Mount Kenya, there are some divisions. There are people who have been saying Nyeri has had it, Kiambu has had it. Muranga is always feeling that they also need their chance. So even within the Kikuyu community, just within the deep state, they are also divided according to their interest. And that's why they were saying they'll have to sit together in the long last and agree. That means they're also divided. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Jackman.
Yes. Is it Ben?
Jackman.
Jack.
Yes, Jackman.
Go ahead.
Yes, asante sana Mr. James. Nataka nitoe maoni yangu hivi kuhusu deep state. Kwanza, the word deep state ni kitu iko. Na kitu yenye iko huwezi kataa kuna. So nikianza na deep state, mambo ya deep state, nikianza na mambo ya upande wa USA, huko ni countries yenye democratic countries kama USA, huko ni countries yenye imesa patikana, imesa tumika mambo ya deep state. Na nilikuja hapa Kenya. Kenya ni Kenya hapa ni deep state imefanya kazi tangu kitambo, si hata mara ya kwanza ifanye kazi. Imefanya kazi kuanzia kitambo. Na hii ndio mambo Raila amekuwa akipigania iishe kabisa. Raila ndiye amekuwa akipigania hii mambo iishe kabisa. Na walikuwa nakataa. So mimi nikikuja kwa mambo ya deep state hapa saa hii ya 2022, deep state ni ile watu wanakaa chini wanaangalia kama hii Kenya mwenye wanaingiza ni mwenye atafanya biashara na hao, interest yao ataenda na interest yao. So wakiangalia kati ya Raila na Ruto, kwanza wanasema Raila si mtu wa biashara sana. Yo deep state wanataka mtu mwenye hayuko kwa biashara, hawataki uwanyang'anye biashara yao, wewe mwenyewe ujifanyie biashara. Wanataka wewe unawapatia biashara hao wenyewe wanafanya. Kwa hivyo kitu ya kwanza wanataka ukubali ufanye biashara nao, si wewe mwenyewe ufanye biashara. Ndio sababu wanakuweka hapo. So nikikuja kwa mambo ya Raila na Ruto, iko chances ndio Ruto sasa anakataa mambo ya Deepstate. Na mimi najua kulingana na vile Raila amelia huko nyuma alikuwa anakataa hii mambo. Ruto mwenyewe anajua Deepstate ni kitu inafanya kazi. Sababu hao wanasimamia mambo ya usalama, mambo ya ICT na kila kitu ya nchi wanasimamia. So wewe kama wewe utakuja lea tu, kule Raila amekuwa akilia huko nyuma, nimenyang'anywa, wanasimamia mpaka kwa judiciary. So wewe unakuja mpaka unakaa hapo. Wewe uliona tu 2013 dakika yenye judiciary walirule mambo ya Raila. Ilikuwa kitu nini 5 minutes na wamerule. Sasa vitu kama hiyo ndio Deepstate wanaingilia. Wanaingia kwa parts yote ya arms yote ya government. Wanasimamia. So hakuna mahali utaendea, sababu once wasaenda kwa judiciary, washaenda kwa presidency. So kila mahali wako. Hakuna mahali, hakuna kitu yote mahali utaenda. Wewe utakuja lia tu, uende kwa barabara, wanakusukumia polisi. Lakini Deepstate ni kitu iko, lazima tukubaliane hivyo. Na Deepstate wanaenda kwa interest. Wakikupenda watakuweka. Nikikuja tena kwa hii mambo ya nini, Deepstate tena inasimamia mambo ya wanakusimamia kwa campaign, lazima wakusimamie sababu wako na interest na wewe. Na Deepstate hawezi weka tu mtu kama mtu mwenye ana votes. Deepstate hawezi weka Samson walichukua hapa sasa hivi waniweke alafu nishinde mtu niseme simame na Ruto. Sio hivyo. Wanakuangalia kwanza uko na votes. Sasa wanataka kufanya kitu yenye si ile inaonekana. Wanakuongeza tu kidogo. Lazima ukuwe na votes alafu wanakuongeza kidogo. So Deepstate ni kitu hiko. Na ndio sababu naona watu watangatanga wamekuwa kelea na wanajua chanzo yao, sababu Raila amekuwa kelea nimenyang'anywa. Wewe umeona mpaka saa hii Savage yafunguliwa. Savage yafunguliwa kwa sababu kuna wale wamekalia hapo, wamesema hii kitu haiwezi fungulia. So mtu akisimama akisema Deepstate ni kitu hakuna. Raila kama angekuwa Deepstate hakuna, Raila sasa angekuwa president. Sasa wewe uliona tu kitu ile sawa. Wakenya wanajifanya waone hizi vitu wanaona. Raila ameshinda 27 wazi. Lakini sasa wanaweka hii kitu ni kitu hakuna, na sababu saa hii imeenda against hao. Lakini saa wakati walikuwa Raila, hata saa hii Raila anashinda tu, hata si alishinda wakati 2013 2017 alikuwa opposition. Na hapo ndio bado aliweza kupata votes mingi. Ruto alikuwa na Uhuru na bado sasa Uhuru ako kando na bado sasa ndio amepata ile votes ya Uhuru wachana ya Ruto. Wakati ile ilikuwa Ruto na Uhuru, lakini sasa Ruto ako peke yake, Uhuru amekuja pande wa Raila. So tuseme hata hakuna tukiwacha hata mambo ya Deepstate, Raila kitu anataka saa hii ni free and fair election. Mambo ya kusema ati anataka hii, hata mambo ya Deepstate ni kitu hakuna hataki, sababu amekuwa akishinda bila hiyo Deepstate. Kitu nataka ni free and fair election. So kitu inasafanya hii free and fair election ifanyike ni kwamba Wakenya wapate kazi. Kitu naleta hii kitu ni njaa. Mimi sasa tuseme sasa nikiwa sasa sina pesa hivi, unikuje na pesa na useme tu wewe fanya tu hivi, wewe tangaza tu tutakupatia ulinzi. Vitu kama hiyo ninafanya Deepstate tunapata opportunity ya kuingilia Kenya. Lakini ni kitu hiko. So kitu tunasema sasa tunasongelea ni vile tunasamaliza hii Deepstate ishe nguvu. Lakini tukatae Deepstate hakuna, hiyo ni mambo hatuwezi kubali. Sababu iko imewahi kwa kufanya kazi. So chenye inafanya hii Deepstate inasaisha ni kwamba tupate president mzuri mwenye anafanya Wakenya wapate kazi. So ukiniahidi pesa hiyo, ukiniahidi pesa fulani, hiyo pesa tayari niko nayo. So hainistui kwa pande nyingine. Lakini Deepstate ni kitu iko na inafanya kazi. So mi naomba tu tupatie Wakenya nafasi waongee na waeleze zaidi, sababu mimi pande yangu nimeona iko na inafanya kazi. Raila amekuwa clear na kitu sahihi Raila anataka ni free and fair election. Yeye atake na deep state. Hata deep state kiongeza itaongeza tu kidogo, lakini akona hiyo opportunity ya kushinda, sababu amekuwa akishinda bila deep state. So mtu nilisikia mtu nyuma hapa akisema ati nilisikia mtu akisema hapo nyuma ati Raila na amegang up against Ruto. Raila huko nyuma amekuwa akisimama peke yake. So wakati Ruto aligang up na Uhuru, mbona hakusema hiyo maneno? Mimi pande yangu nasema Raila amekuwa akisimama peke yake na amekuwa akishinda bila deep state. So kitu alikuwa amekosa ni kutangazwa. So saa hii kama tunasapata free and fair election, mambo itakuwa sawa. Nimemaliza.
Okay. Maswali?
Kwangu Jackman ama kwa mengine?
Kuna mtu ana maswali?
See, Mulumbu had wanted to contribute. Huh?
Yes, let him go ahead.
Okay, thank you guys. Good evening, good morning, night time. Mada ya leo ni mzuri sana kuhusu habari ya deep state. Deep state, as wale wengine of the waliotangulia how they said, is everywhere. And even in USA here, most of them hao ndio wana sponsor elections. Even Trump pia alikuwa na deep state. Ndio naona walikuwa wanampush mpaka ya kwamba walimfanya akakosa hata kukubali ya kwamba alishindwa. But the good thing with America, sheria, it doesn't matter. Kama kura zimehesabiwa, delegates wamesema kapata imepita, hakuna vile utafanya. Utaenda na vile wanataka. So, nikirudi kwetu nyumbani kwa deep state. Deep state ilikuwa pata wakati wa Moi. Moi alikuwa anatumia deep state. But the only thing that Moi hakuwa na watu kidogo, alikuwa na upande wake sana wale alikuwa na finya, lakini central deep state wa central hakuwa nao because hao ndio alikuwa anapigana nao. So wakati Kibaki alikuja na Raila akasema Kibaki tosha, ile central waligawanyika katikati because walikuwa watu wawili kutoka kwa nini yao their area. So hiyo deep state ilikuja kagawanyika katikati. Kuna wale waliona huyu ni project ya huyu ya Moi alimetusumbua miaka mingi, we don't want him, ndio akasupport nani, wakasupport Kibaki. Na kuna wale wengine pia walikuwa walifuata kutoka from the area Uhuru, wakasema huyu ni mtoto wa Kenyatta, wale walidip na Kenyatta, lakini walikuwa happy ya kwamba sasa something is coming back home, but they split into two. After that, when Kibaki alikaa kwa kiti, walirudi pamoja na wakawaka pamoja kama deep state. So ndio waliporudi pamoja, walisahau ile Raila alifanya. Sasa akawa sasa wanasema wewe jamaa vile umeingia hapa, huyu jamaa tutaka songe karibu. Ndio sasa zile plans zenye Kibaki alifanya na Raila wakaziharibu, wakasema huyu jamaa usimuingize sana, ukimuingiza sana atakuja shika, na najua ni mtu Raila ni mtu anataka demokrasia, the reality, hataki mambo ya kutokea nyuma. And most of the deep state ni watu wa kutopia, ni watu wale ni nini wa deals. So the truthness ya baba ya Raila alikuwa nayo, ndiye alifanya akakosana na Kenyatta. Hiyo ni truthness ya Raila bado yako nayo. Sana hiyo ndio watu deep state wanaogopa. Unajua deep state hawako Kisumu. Deep state ni wale central wako katika central Nairobi na central Kenya, wale wenye wameshikilia pesa ya Kenya. Wale wana makampuni kubwa kubwa. And a country has lazima iwe na watu kama hao, wale wameemploy watu, they worry about their businesses. So wakipata kuna somebody is coming that atakuja kujua shida zao vile wanafanya biashara yao, anaweza kukata deal zao, then they fight that person. So mtu mwenye anaingia kuongoza lazima awe anakubaliana nao. Kibaki alikuja akakubaliana nao, so they had to support Kibaki. Okay, lakini Raila alikuwa na watu. Raila alikuwa na the whole country. But sasa walikuwa lazima wafanye kitu, ndio uliona kura ya 2007 vile ilifanyika. Kura zilishindwa kabisa na wakashika kura za Central. Wakisha kura zingine zimekuja zote na wakashika za Central. So to know what's going on, you know, by that time hakukuwa na technology, zilikuwa lazima zitumwe, zipigwe simu. Ndio ulikuwa unasikia wanasema, na mbona kura za kutoka tu hapa karibu Central za jaingia na kura the whole country zimeingia. Walikuwa naangalia sasa, wakishamaliza na mandi wa top up. Ndio ilileta fujo pale. Wakati kuleta fujo pale, Kivita asema hajui na akakimbia usiku akaenda kwa hii ni Kibaki usiku. That was deep state. Ndio ilifanya hiyo kazi. So nikirudi sasa hapa kwa Ruto. Ruto amefanya vile mwenzangu alisema hapa wale, Ruto amefanya na walipoungana na remember walijua Raila can take this thing. Na deep state ndio walijua hiyo. Na walisikia kusijua anaitwa na nani na MP nilimsikia akisema kwa Citizen that they didn't want Raila. They had to go kutoa Uhuru. Wahado Uhuru alikuwa anasema ati akao Mudavadi chukue. They had to go to Uhuru. Hiyo ni deep state. Ili wamlete, na wakaangalia, wakapiga kura, akasema Raila hawezi mchukua. He cannot accept. So let's go to Ruto. Kwa sababu walijua walishakosana Ruto pale, sasa wakapiga karata yao, wakaona let's go back to Ruto, huyu ndio ata accept. Na kweli wakaongea naye na akakubali, akaingia kwa box. Hiyo ni deep state. Walipingia kwa box, kura zikapigwa. Zilipopigwa, because Raila anakuwa accepted the whole country, aliwin the election. But did you see what they did? Wale kwenda wakashika Mtunga. Walipoleta ushahidi, Mtunga akasema hapana, hiyo hatuwezi kubali hiyo. Do you see? Nikawa ndio deep state. Aya, wakiingia 2013. Sasa ni Uhuru na Kenyatta. So this way that ngoma inakuja sasa kuwaka. This way things went worse. Went sour for Uhuru and Ruto, because Uhuru was genuine when waliingia kwa deal, but Ruto was not genuine. Aliingia na plan fulani alikuwa nayo, alikuwa na intention. Sasa akaanza, imagine akiingia, he had nothing. Uhuru akiingia kwa uchaguzi, he had money, familia ilimsupport, alikuwa na pesa. Akiongezwa na Kibaki alimpatia kama serikali, he had money. Ruto had no money. So Uhuru has to sponsor Ruto in everything. Deep State was doing that because they wanted to win, to put Raila aside, because wanajua Raila is a threat. No. Because Raila is fighting for everybody, not for only for few people. He had the whole country. So walipoingia pale 2013, na Ruto akaanza kufanya plani zake pale ndani, kwa sababu alijua Uhuru akitoka, he's the one talking over. So he needed money. He needed how to be powerful. Na aka choreograph, akaingia kwa wale ma MP wa nini, akasaidia wale ma MP wa nini, akapata pesa kabisa 2013 2017. Alipopata base ya pesa, akajua sasa hapa nimepata. Sasa kitu imebakia ni kuenda kwa Central kupata wale ma MP wa Deep State. Wale ma MP wote walimsupport. Akaenda kwa support na ma MC na everybody. Akamwaga pesa. Aliposhinda uchaguzi ambapo ulikuwa na controversial kubwa, ikapatikana Deep State imetumia, ikaua hata IEC team kubwa, Msando akaua, wale watu wengi walikuwa wanaleta ujuaji wote walifinywa. hiyo router, hiyo plan anajua how it was working. He knew that because yeye ndiye alifinya hiyo kila kitu, na wakapatikana walishindwa, saba haijafunguliwa mpaka leo. He knows. Mbona haongeage kwa saba? Akiwa anataka a credible election, truth, why are they not talking about saba? Kwa nini waseme ya kwamba from now we need a clean election? Can you please open the server so that when the other election ikikuja, hiyo server ilifunguliwa, tujue hakuna kitu ndani, everything ilishatolewa. Why are they not talking about that? Jiulizeni hao watu ambao wana support UDA. Why you guys cannot tell your boss to open the server? Because he knew how Deepstate worked. So vile amefika pale 2017, ikawa ni dunia inawaka moto. Kenya inaenda kugawanyika, Coast wanaenda kwao, Western tunaenda huku kwingine, Nyanza wanaenda kwingine. Na unajua Ruto hakutaka kusikiza because he's a machinery. He doesn't care whether you die. But Uhuru alipoangalia akareflect, akaona hapana, we are not on the right track. Wakakaa chini. Remember, Kibaki kuna watu wengine wanasema mbona alienda akafanya peke yake na Uhuru, mbona hakuwa wakati Kibaki Raila alishinda 2007. Hiyo timu ilitumwa wakina Martha Karua, wakina Ruto na wengine Mudavadi, kilishindikana. Watu wangapi walikuja kunegotiate ikashindikana. Ndipo Kofi Annan akasema no, he die hard is not going to help this country. This has only to be between two people. Na America wakapigia Kibaki, you have to talk to Raila and agree. There's no any other. Ndio sababu ile nini, yule ambassador alikuwa ambassador secretary alipokanyaga Kenya yote ilizima akaambia Kibaki, you have to agree so the country can go to normal. You have to. Nyinyi na Raila mkitoka kwa nyumba lazima mmetoka na solution ya nchi nzima. They came out because Raila ni mtu ana value maisha ya binadamu. Wakatoka, wakasalamiana, the country went cool, na ikagrow kwa percentage ambapo hiyo Uhuru amekuja kupata na Ruto. But here is the guy who is ambitious with the ruling the country, the leader who is ambitious. He does not go down akitaka. So Uhuru alipoona wakasema, ndugu yangu, this is not the way we are supposed to lead our people. Our people have to be in peace, to do business, not to lead the people that who are dying. If they die, what kind of people are we leading now? Okay, jamaa alipoona hivyo, ilimuuma. Ndio sikia Uhuru alikwambia, alimwambia everything they did he knew, but he knew when this guy comes in, ile plan alikuwa nayo haitaingia. So akasema, na wale MP alikuwa nao wakafanya deal, wakasema kama ni hivi sisi tusimama hapa. Ndio nisikia walikuwa na mpango wa kuimpeach Uhuru, but the time wanafanya hivyo Deepstate ilikuwa ishamjua. Do you see that way things come sour? Deepstate haikukubaliana na vile jamaa anafanya mambo, vile jamaa anapeleka vitu. So aliconvince wale ma MP na wale ma MCA na few governors, lakini most governors na Deepstate wenyewe he was not them with hawakuwaweka kwa mfuko. Sasa hapo ndio ambali kitumbua kimetumbulia mchangani. Hapo ndio naona saa hii anapigana because I know how agree na yeye what he's doing, they don't agree with it. Now he has to go out. Alianza mapema aanze kuzungumza against Deepstate, knowing what they do, knowing what he also did, that wakifanya hatapata nafasi ya kuingia. Sasa kiti imemdanganya kama ni hivyo, let me go out, nianze kupiga kelele. Nikipiga kelele ndio pengine nitapata mwanya ya kuingia pale, waisi fanya hivyo. Hapo ndio kuna msikizungumuti. Hivyo ndio vile maoni yangu ya huyo jamaa. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody can take over from there? Penny?
Yeah, I can talk maybe to support what this other speaker said. What I want to maybe in support of him is that Ruto is a political or is too ambitious for leadership, just like Raila was, and he's strong also. And the people of Central are businessmen, and they know Ruto is also have an appetite for money. So Ruto it cannot be good for them. They used him and they want to do away with him because a Ruto presidency is not good for Central Province.
Are you talking of the Kikuyu elite or the masses?
The Kikuyu elite, because these are the people who do business with the government. But you see, Ruto, during the second term, Ruto had foreseen that. Ruto is also a smart guy, don't underrate him. And he put off all the tough Kikuyus, hoping that he'll put his people in, the MPs, that will also kick out the current elite of the Kikuyu. And he tried, he removed quite a number of them, the Kikuyus that had independent mind, Okina Kabogo. They put in people like Waititu, Okina Kabando, those are independent mind. He almost removed all of them, banking that the MPs will also block the elite. But you see, all in all, the central people, maybe middle class and the rich, they already have the money and they like to do business all over Kenya. The only person who can guarantee them is Raila, if he can put the level field, the ground to be level. Amudava, the presidency cannot put off Ruto. Kalonzo government cannot put off Ruto. We already know what Raila was doing from outside. And what even he did after 2017, that he put the government to a stop. Ruto is capable of doing that if it's a Mudavadi presidency. Mark my words, if Raila loses, he'll not be interested in politics again. So Kina Ruto, be it Mudavadi, be it Kalonzo, they'll have to fight their own fight with Ruto. And I don't think they have the capacity to put this guy out. So the Kikuyus are satisfied with Raila. They have the capital already to do business. And if the ground is level, they'll still have a plus on their side. Let's say there's a big multi-contract, like Raila is saying the contract should be done by Kenyans, not the Chinese. Who have the equipment to do that? It's not anybody from Cross. It's not anybody from Nyanza. It's not anybody from Western. It's not anybody from Turkana. So even if the ground is level, they'll still have an advantage. And that's what they also foresee. Hata wewe sahi ukiambiwa supply something to the government, you don't have the money, the capital. Who has it? It's the Kikuyus. But if Ruto comes in, whether you have the capital or not, he's the one who's going to do it. You saw how he appointed his cabinet. So these guys are in fear. And Mudavadi cannot protect them. Kalonzo cannot protect them. So definitely they'll support Raila so that they can conduct business all over the country. That's what I wanted to support.
Okay.
You see now, you take a Kikuyu person, if you give him that leeway to do business, even in Siaya, they'll do it. So long as they're guaranteed peace, they'll do it. They'll do it, definitely. And that's a positive for them. If Raila can guarantee them that they'll do business everywhere, it'll be okay for them. Because they know right now, if they lose the presidency, it might take like 30 years before they see the presidency. And that's why they're playing with a two-prong. Raila put one of them as a deputy. And Raila's age, you're not assured how long he can stay. God forbid.
Okay, so don't you also look at it in this way? by failing to honor the so-called agreement, quote unquote, of yangu kumi yake kumi. Don't you think that some parts of this country will not be open for business for these people you are talking about?
Yeah, that was yangu kumi yako kumi. That was a political gimmick. That was a play.
I'm asking, don't you think by not honoring that, then you actually jeopardize the business that would take place between the two in that region?
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. I'm saying the yangu kumira, that was me. That was just a gimmick, just to win the Kalenjin. The Kalenjins are very, very, they can be very violent. You can see what happened in 2007, where the violence was. So it was just to cool them down so that they make a strategy that is strong enough. Now, saying that this one will, I mean, Nyanza has been out of political goodwill for 50 years, and the country is going on. So if the rest of the country are satisfied, Rift Valley can also freeze for some time. That's not a big deal in politics. I mean, Nyanza has been out for 50 years, and the country has been moving. And the Kenyans, they don't have a lot of capital, and they have not survived outside opposition. I don't think they'll survive out of opposition. They have an alternative to come into the government through Gideon Moi. So Ruto is not going to hold these Kalenjins forever. No. If they see life is tough and they have not been in position, another leader will come in. I mean, it cannot be them against the whole country. No.
Do you subscribe to the view that there are those who say that for Gideon to survive politically in Rift Valley, then Ruto has to be vanquished, and the person who can only vanquish him is Raila Amolo Odinga?
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that, and that is why the central kingpins had to go for Raila for the handshake. It's Uhuru who went for the handshake. It's not vice versa, like people wanted us to believe. It is Uhuru who went for Raila because there's nobody who could put Ruto down apart from Raila. And even the Ruto guys knew that's why after the handshake, despite Uhuru saying we want to bring the country together, they already knew that if it's Raila coming in, then we have no chances. And that's why they didn't take offense with Uhuru, but they took offense with Raila to demonize it. Because Mudavadi couldn't do that. And the Kikuyu themselves, they already respect themselves. They couldn't do it alone. They had the majority in the government. They could even impeach the president before it's down. So who else could have? And Mudavadi doesn't have the number of MPs in the government. Alonso doesn't have. Weta has got nobody. So who else could have done it? Stop this guy. It's only Raila. And it's only Raila who can go up Gideon Moi. He has done it before. He has done it for Mudavadi. He did it for Saitoti. And he's done it for a lot of people. So he can also go up Gideon Moi. Mudavadi was vanquished, Abisa. But it's Raila who came and washed him with Om and put him on the political limelight. Twice, in fact.
But he has defined the state, the deep state.
Who has defined the deep state?
Musalia.
This is what I was telling you. Uhuru wants a united country where everybody will have some role to play. And that's what we've been telling Oka. Because if they take Oka and they leave Raila, it's going to be very dangerous. Nobody can fight Raila and Ruto pamoja. Nobody. So what he's telling them is forgo your presidency. We have something for you and for your people. And at the same time, I think Mudavadi is also being sponsored by, it is sponsored by the big state. Just in case of anything, Raila is too old. The elections are too far. Just in case of anything, he can step in.
Yes.
That's my view.
You're done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Penny, can you take over the moderation?
The moderator, you're going away?
Yes, I want to go away now.
Why can't you wait for us to just finalize? Maybe because I think we have exhaustively discussed the topic in detail. So maybe we could do a parting shot or something. What do you think?
It's okay. It's fine. Can you start, or any one of you who wants to go ahead?
And Joe, you need to mute your mic. There's a lot of echo. Joe, can we start? Where do we start from?
You start, Penny.
Sorry?
You can start.
Okay. Okay. I don't have much to say because I think my panelists have exhaustively discussed whatever I could have said, and then maybe I could just sum it up by saying that the deep state is a reality. It exists, and that should not discourage us from registering for the. That should not deter people from registering. We should go out and register. We should urge our children, our neighbors to do the voter registration, and let us go to the person we believe that we will be safe in his hands, regardless of whether the deep state is there.
Somebody should mute.
I think Jackman.
I think on away. Let him mute.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what I'm saying is that I think the topic has been discussed in details by my fellow panelists. And the only thing that I would need to put across is that regardless of the action of the deep state, we all need to go out there and register, do voter registration. Let's tell our children who are 18 and above to go and register, because I think there's been a very low turnout of voter registration. So let us go out there and get our voter cards, and let us make a very conscious decision. Yeah, let us think about our future. Let's think about our children, and then let us have it in mind that we are in a politicking season, and therefore it's okay for us to support. If you're a Baba supporter, we are living in a democratic country where you're free to choose whichever candidate you think will bring out the best for this nation. So one thing that you should bear in mind that after the elections, whoever wins will be the president to all of us. So we really don't need to take this period into heart. It's a season. We have to politic. We have to show support. We have to criticize. We are allowed to say all manner of things as long as we are not inciting. But it's a season where there are rallies and there are campaigns, and we are all free to express our sentiments regarding the presidential candidates that we have. So let us have in mind that we only have one country, Kenya, and After the elections, we are hoping that things will go back to normal, and the president that will be chosen will be a president to those who chose him and to those who didn't. So we can only but hope for the best. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Next.
I want to support what Penine said about us being electing a president that can be for us all. But one thing I must tell you is most of us, or most of you young people, you think the Western way. But actually, it is not practicable here. That freedom that they have in Western cannot work in anywhere in Africa, not even South Africa, not even Nigeria, not even Ethiopia, which was not colonized. We have our traditions, we have our customs, not even in our villages. Some of us, we are in town, yes, maybe we drive big cars, but when we go to town, when elders talk, the literate elders talk on an issue of the community, we listen. We can only do suggestion, but the final conclusion is that. So we still think African. We don't think like we think like we are still African, but we try to think like the Western world. On voter registration, I think it is worked negatively for Ruto. Ruto is debunking on the young voters who does not know history, who were not there even 2007. And they don't care what happened in 2007. So he was banking on them, but they have not come out nationwide. It's been pathetic. So it's not working well for him. And I think even the system did not put enough money for IBC to really conduct this voter registration in a manner that it could have captured so many of the youth. I believe if there was a presidential candidate from Central, the elites could have mobilized, even without the IBC. They could have mobilized the youth, they could have even paid them money to register, and they could have achieved what they wanted. But since the same youth from the Central are not listening to the elders and the elites decided to stay behind and let things take its own nature. So it's all working negatively for Ruto. The voter registration apathy is still good for Raila because he has his old voters that are already registered. So he can still maintain that one. Ruto is not depending on the old people because they know his history, they know his track record. And even if you see at the political forum, those people who are there before cannot agree with Ruto's politics. They know what he has been saying is not what he has been doing. So it's too bad for him. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Who has not given a final shot?
Jackie,
Can you do it and let's sum up this and we go away?
Oh, Jack.
Who is this?
Jackman.
It's a lot of noise.
Joe, you need to mute. Okay.
First mute then. Mute. So that we can be going on.
I've muted.
Yes.
Yes, can you? Who is this? There's somebody who is not muted.
It's Jackman trying to speak, and I think he can't. He's not audible.
Yes, I'm talking.
apart from him, there is somebody else. There is somebody else, and he is not visible.
I think maybe somebody who has gone asleep or is out and amewacha mic ikikuwa on.
I think so. It's not visible, but it's really creating an echo.
Could it be Jackman? Jackman. Jackman, are you there?
I'm there.
It seems like your speaker has some malfunction.
Niko sawa kabisa, nakuelewa vizuri.
Lakini hausikiki vizuri.
Sasa hapo
Just started right now.
yes, nilikuwa nataka kueleza kila mtu mwenye ako hapa akiwa aiwe mtu wa Tangatanga ama Kieleweke. Nataka kuambia
Whose mic is creating this echo?
Nini? I think sijui ni speakerphone or what is it?
speaker yangu iko sawa, naongea hapa ilikuwa sawa kabisa.
That's okay. Now keep it that way.
Iko sawa hapo?
It's coming back. It's coming back. Put it off.
Yes. Nilikuwa nataka kueleza kila mtu mwenye ako hapa akiwa mwanachama mwenye wafuasi wa ODM, wafuasi wa Jubilee, wafuasi wa UDA. Nilikuwa nataka niwaeleze kila mtu lazima heshimu chaguo la mwingine. Kwa hivyo mimi nawaomba kama tutakuwa tunafanya election ya 2022 kila mtu heshimu mwingine na president atatoka kwa Wakenya wote. Mimi kwa pande yangu nimekuwa kwa opposition kwa hizo muda yote, na mimi example kwa saa hii duka yenye mimi naendea kununua sukari ndio duka mwenye wa Jubilee pia anaendea. So tukue tu genius, tukue tu kwa roho mzuri, tusiplay hasira kwa mtu mwenye hakuwa amesimama. So mimi nawaomba kila mtu mwenye anaelewa hasira tusipelekee wananchi. So unapata kura ikifanyika wengine, kwanza mimi sasa ni kweli, unapata wengine wana threaten ati ikisipofanya hivi itafanyika hivi. Mimi naona ni kitu mbaya sana, sababu mimi binafsi sijasimama, mtoto yangu yenye asimama hakuna. So hiyo threatening si mzuri, sababu tunapata president akisimama akishinda ni wa Kenya wote. So si poa. Mimi nawaumiza tu kila mtu mwenye anasikiza, tukue wazi, tukue akili ile iko sawa. So tusipeleke ile hasira ati mtu wetu ameshindwa sasa naumiza mtu mwenye karibu na mimi. So huwa nakuwa nikiumiza watu wenye kunao karibu. Once president ameshinda kwa watu wote, atakuwa president ya Wakenya wote, ataongoza Wakenya wote. So once umeshindwa ama umeshinda, sikue kama madharau kwa wale wenye wamebaki nyuma. So naumiza kila mtu, heshimu uamuzi wa kila mtu. Asante.
Okay. Who is this remaining? Who is this also remaining?
I think Jackman has left, eh?
Yes. So are you through, Penny? Are you close?
Yeah, I think I'm done. So maybe.
So
you don't want to
let me give the final word, eh? And then we close the whole thing.
Yeah.
In just 30 seconds. What I can say is that thank you guys for this talk show, and it's been quite a lesson for some of us. Let us continue to keep the lessons that we are running here. Debating is good. It has nothing to do with enmity. We have a democratic right to take whatever position one might want. It is unfortunate to hear our friends say that already there are people threatening others because of politics. this is the kind of behavior we must continue condemning, and make sure that we don't take that direction that where we came from some few years back. We don't need to do that, leader. Whoever will be voted in will be the next president of the Republic of Kenya, and you don't have to use force to get the votes. You just have to use persuasion and intelligence to get the votes, and God will bless you, and you will lead people when you come to power. You need to lead people who are happy, those who are healthy, and able to work. Thank you very much, guys. Let's meet tomorrow or any other day. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay.
Good night to all of you.
Good
Good
night.
night.